From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
It's shocking. Wow.
I don't know why that happened. Oh, probably because it's in here.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Smith Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Carrie Smith.
Giving you all the late-breaking news of last week, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all, explaining it to you, because the media will lie to you left and right, and we've got tons and tons of fake news out this week. Unbelievable. Stay close to Donald Trump's Twitter feed, because that's where you're going to get some really good news. What is going on, Mr.
Is it? I guess
Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, we're
testing
working on
1, 2, 3. Thank you, folks, for being on the show. And for those of you who are this first time on the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. Right at the bottom of the screen, you'll see underneath me it says at Brian P. Smith. It's where you can follow me on Twitter, and I will follow back. Underneath Carrie is at Smith Radio, SMYTH. That's on Twitter as well. And I don't know, do you follow back, man?
I do as much as possible. As a matter of fact, people may find this hard to believe, because when I was first doing this, I would try, people like Mike Cernovich already had like 70,000 followers.
Right.
And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's got to be inundated with all kinds of messages, tweets, and all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm about halfway there, and it's like I never miss any messages, tweets, or anything. And it's mainly because I'm on it at least once a day for extended periods and kind of getting caught up with everything. So if you tweet at me and say, give me a follow, I'm there. I'll do it. Unless you insult me in the process, which I've actually had somebody do recently.
No.
So, yeah.
What?
Somebody was like passive-aggressively trying to blast on me for not following him. And I'm like, what? Like literally name-calling or something. And I was just like, well, I guess I'm not following that guy. So
Yeah. No.
Try not to be offensive when you do it. Oh, somebody did it to you too, Brian.
Been working out some kinks with the Vimeo crew. Talk to Vimeo. That's where we've been attempting to broadcast successfully live. And
I will tell you this. I can go to our Telegram group that you could be a part of if you were a patron of us through patreon.com/SmythRadio. And I will see.
right there at the bottom of the screen.
I'm actually going to ask people if we're live.
What's that? So Vimeo, they're not a new company. It's like a YouTube channel, but you pay to be on it. So you're thinking, well, it should be a lot better, right? They've got some issues. There was one issue that I asked them. I said, hey, when we go live, for those that follow us on the little app, why don't they get notifications? And they responded to me. The support team at Vimeo responded to me and said, oh, well, we don't do that. And I asked him, I said, why? Why would you not let them know that we're live? And he said, some people want their privacy.
What?
And we're not set up for that. I said, well, you need to look into that. He said, okay,
That's a bad excuse.
maybe we'll look into that.
That's a really bad excuse.
So I've been battling back and forth all week long with Vimeo. We'll see how that works out. If we are live on Periscope.
It looks like Periscope's live. So I guess everybody needs to share it. So I'm going to share live right now. And that way you guys can, if I can figure out how, there we go, post on Twitter. Bam, just like that. It says, watch Brian P. Smith's Periscope. So, yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Vimeo. Assuming based on what you just said that it's not, but I don't know.
Yeah, with our recording device, it sends a message back to me and lets me know that recording has ceased.
Vanessa informed me that she just got an error. So I will just tell them to go to Periscope. Wow. Interesting.
I'm trying to attempt Periscope now.
Well, I mean, it was working on my end.
Okay, it says.
All right.
Oh.
Well, sorry about this little hiccup here, folks. But, this is what happens when you're dealing with live apps.
Live apps, live radio. This is where it's at. Folks, if you want to listen to us audio only throughout the week, you can go to iHeartRadio.smithradio.com or just blend it all together, iHeartRadio.smithradio.com. Either way, it'll get you there. When you're on iHeartRadio, just search Smith Radio, Smith space radio, and we come up. why iHeart does not. Is that an error to me if I type in Smith Radio, all one word, and it doesn't recognize it versus Smith Space Radio? Is that me, or is that an error on their part?
I hate to get technical here, but I will. Computers don't necessarily see two words the same, or any one word the same as two words joined together. It actually does recognize or distinguish with the space in there. So if you try to do one word, the only way it would find us is if that is one of the search criteria for our channel. But apparently, since you can't find it, that's not the case, which means you have to separate Smith and Radio. And don't forget, we have a goofy spelling of Smith. It's SMYTH. Not to be confused with Smythe.
Right, and we have family members that go by Smythe because it's easier to get other people to spell it correctly.
Right. You know, I've gotten to the point where when I have to tell somebody my last name, I just go ahead and say the long version, which is Smith with a Y.
Yes, I'll do that too.
Smith with a Y is our full name. because that's the only way you'll get anybody to find it. And sometimes you have to repeat it if they're in a filing cabinet or in some sort of a list, because they'll go straight to the SMIs and they won't find it.
Anyway, so the news of the week. What's happened this week?
Enough about us.
Yeah, this was a busy week this week, folks. It truly, truly was. We've got some explosive information coming out about the spy, the I Spy. How many spies were there in the Trump campaign, 2016, FBI? And John Brennan, the former CIA head, should be lawyering up pretty soon, folks.
Real quick, before we go any further, I'm just now being informed that our Periscope is looping.
Oh, that means we're completely done.
Damn it.
So do we just record and upload it later?
Is it recording?
Yep, it's recording right now.
It's probably best.
Just keep going?
Yeah. So on Vimeo...
And then we'll upload the video afterwards.
Right. So on Vimeo, it won't do it automatically because there was an error.
Correct. So I'll have to re-upload this, and we'll also have to upload it on the YouTubes and the iHeartRadio. So
as long as it's recording, I guess we're good to go. So let's move on. All right, what do we got?
So anyways, explosive news. We'll text them back and let them know we'll upload when the show's over.
Yeah, that's probably best to do. All right, you go ahead and I'll do that.
So explosive news about the spy, Russian collusion with Trump campaign. Figure that one out. The blue wave that was supposed to be flowing across the country. The blue wave is what the Democrat National Committee, the DNC, or the Democrat Party, has been attempting to say. There's a blue wave crossing the country, and we're taking back the country by firestorm. We're going to take the House and the Senate. You're right. There's no wave. And there's no wave for one specific reason. Their platform, what they are advocating for, and their platform, they are absolutely running straight into a bridge abutment, and it is going to become a nightmare. It already has become a nightmare for them. And Glenn Beck, who I vowed never to speak his name on this show.
Oh, he did the red MAGA hat this week, huh?
Oh, wah.
You didn't hear about that?
Yeah, no. I got the video.
Oh, was I supposed to keep that secret?
No, that's okay. There's a if you're on the YouTubes, there's Trump. Oh, dang nabbit. Did I just really do that?
What?
Trump Party Network.
What's a Trump Party Network?
Sorry.
Oh,
Trump Fan Network, TFN.
Okay.
Trump Fan Network, and they put together an incredible cut montage. Beck says 30 seconds of something today on his show when he wore the MAGA hat, and then they splice in a piece of something he said back during the campaign.
Oh, right.
And they go back and forth, and it's just,
There's hundreds of people you can do that to, though, that are huge Trump fans today that have bad audio clips or video or tweets or whatever it might be. As a matter of fact, I hate to throw somebody under the bus right now. But
throw him.
Thomas Paine of True Pundit had me blocked.
Oh, Thomas.
Yeah. But we're cool now, and I'm unblocked. But apparently he was a big Cruise Crew fan during the primary, which I never had a problem with. During the primary, we're hashing it out, we're debating. And if you were a Cruise fan at that time, I had no problem with it. I just tried to make my case for Trump. And the problem is the Cruise Crew people were becoming increasingly hostile to the point where it just got really, really ugly. In fact, some people actually got blocked from Twitter because they were just letting their emotions get the best of them. And so Cruise Crew people were getting banned for their maltreatment on Twitter of Trump people.
That's crazy.
And, of course, it actually continued down the road even after Cruz dropped out. And some people, like your Ben Shapiro's, your Glenn Beck's and all that, continued long after he actually won the presidency. Right. So but months later, I found out that Thomas Paine, this is funny, Thomas Paine only had maybe a couple thousand followers on Twitter. I didn't know he was an author. I just thought he was a crap poster, for lack of a more explicit word. But he...
Yeah. Well, he's got a website, truepundit.com.
Yeah, and I found out later that he started that in response to all the fake news that's coming out, and he just was – there's actually way more to the story. It's actually a pretty cool story. But I didn't even know that about him when we were going back and forth, and he ended up blocking me eventually because I won the debate. You know me. I don't lose debates. Come on. Anyways,
it's the same reason why I'm blocked by Jake Tapper. And
but I did get a hold.
Sauer.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I eventually got a hold of him when I realized that the True Pundit creator was the same guy that blocked me way back in the day, and I got a hold of him and said, "Hey, dude, I don't know why, but you got me blocked, and we agree with all the same stuff.
We cool."
And he was totally cool. He's like, "Oh man, I don't know what happened. Yeah, Twitter's Twitter.
Yeah, that's okay. Cool."
Yeah, I said, "Yeah, that's probably it."
So for those of you who went to Facebook and gave us a negative review, awful review, that supported Ted Cruz, please go back.
Yeah.
Just delete that, man. That don't make no never mind.
Because you know you ain't that way today.
No.
You know you're like, Trump. And then I'm like, well, yeah, but why'd you give us a bad review on Facebook?
Right. Exactly.
Precisely. Anyway.
So I've got a video clip that Carrie sent to me. I spliced that thing up from Deface the Nation. We're going to get into Russia a little bit more today. Donald Trump tweeting out. And what is Trump going to do on Monday?
What is he going to do Monday?
He going to drop the hammer.
Oh, did he tweet about it today?
He did. It's his top tweet of the day.
Oh, my goodness. He has top tweets of the day?
Well, no, this is the one. It was his most recent top.
Most recent. Gotcha.
Clinton probe. Did you hear about that? Clinton getting probed?
Do we have to talk about that?
Well, there's new stuff coming out, folks, and the IG Horowitz has found reasonable grounds. And we'll discuss that about what's going on with it and debacle. And as the Democrat National Committee, like I said, the Democrats, the reason why they're losing is because their base or their platform. One of the things that they're embracing on their platform is MS-13 gang members who are animals.
Oh, gosh, I can't wait to talk about that.
And then we have a couple of shootings that happened this week. And juxtapose on that, we have a handful, dozens of people who used a gun to protect and save their own life. We've got that as well. And Planned Parenthood.
Oh, that's a big one. I actually forgot about that until you just said it.
Ann Coulter is not happy.
What? Why?
I'll tell you about that.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And then there's a U.S. Parents Coalition who launches petition to end federal education department.
All right.
That'll be a good one. And so why we tease that thing with Glenn Beck, let me just say, I
tried to tease it, but I ruined it.
I'd like to start off with it because this is what's happened, folks.
I was shocked. Full disclosure, guys. This is I'm not ashamed to say it. All right. I have a
let's have a conversation.
Yeah, let's have it. This is a intervention. So I'm not ashamed to say this, but almost every day, whenever I'm out working, from 9 o'clock to noon,
the Glenn Beck Show is on 55 KRC here in
Glenn
Cincinnati.
Beck comes on the radio show, and I suffer through it. And now, some of you people at home listening are probably...
So did you hear this show?
I missed that one, and I'm really sad that I missed it. And you got to realize, I got to be out working. I do not listen to the radio unless I'm actually currently working.
Oh, so if it's... Because it rained a couple of times this week.
If it rains, I'm not going to be listening because if I'm at home, I'll get on to YouTube and I'll cast it to the TV. Right. For those of you, when I did AMA with New Right Media, I was shocked. They really wanted to know where I get my news from. What? They were really curious. So I started giving them a list, but I said, a majority of this is all available on YouTube. So majority of my stuff, I have the subscription to all these channels on YouTube, and so whenever I get a chance at home, I'm casting it to the TV, and I'm watching everybody's stuff. But anyway, so I'm at work, Glenn Beck, and, here's the thing about Glenn Beck. As long as Trump is not actually being discussed, he's still the guy that became world famous. And he is entertaining. He is extremely informative. He has great takes on everything as long as the word Trump is not a part of that take. He also has these things called serials, which is like a little segment that he'll do educating you about the history of something in a way that you've never heard it. Like never. I've learned so much stuff that's actually the opposite of what I was taught in grade school because he did his own research on it. Do you know he has his own museum?
Oh, yes, I did. I watched one of his videos as he was going through it and talking about it.
Yeah, he has all these artifacts that he's acquired over the years, using his wealth to actually purchase them. He's also had people actually donate and say, you know what, I know, Glenn, you're going to do great things with this. You're going to show it to the world. You're going to protect it. You're not going to let it get destroyed. So I'm just going to give it to you.
Like Nazi propaganda and stuff like that's part of the museum.
A whole bunch of stuff.
I mean,
whole bunch of stuff.
Stuff that's like really bad stuff.
Yeah.
We've got to save that stuff. And these people taking down George Washington statues because they say he was a slave owner. That's erasing history, and that's very dangerous.
Right. And so I kind of liken him to like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is more widespread because he's constantly tweeting, and he's got these videos that come up on YouTube all the time. Glenn Beck is like, I got my show that I do for 3 hours a day, or you could go beyond my paywall,
right?
Pay me, and then you could watch the video version of my show. Which is part of the Blaze or whatever.
Rush Limbaugh does that too.
Yeah, but that's it. So unless you do that, you have very limited access to him. So I'm here to tell you that he's a lot more like Ben Shapiro, where as long as the word Trump is not being used, there's a lot of great stuff coming from these people, both Shapiro and Glenn Beck. And it's a shame because they ruin themselves. They totally discredit themselves when Trump gets brought up. So for what Brian's about to show you to actually happen is a big shocker.
So it's about 4 minutes long, but hang in there. It's very entertaining. And like I said, when you hear the first sound that comes up, that is Glenn Beck's show today, like this past week, is him talking. Then the sound will change. It'll get a little muffled and it'll get a little crunk. And that's back in 2016. And then it cuts back to him today. Back and forth.
So this is good. So this is from the guy called Trump Fan or whatever?
Yeah, Trump Fan Network on YouTube. Definitely subscribe.
Here's why I'm predicting a 2020 win. When I saw yesterday how the press was all reporting the same damn story that Donald Trump was calling MS-13 gang members, they left that out of the story, animals. And they were spinning it as if he was saying that about all immigrants. I had enough.
Can you stop this for a second? I got to say something. Now that
Yes.
Brian knows. Everybody listening knows. If you've been listening to us very long and you're really red-pilled about Trump, this exact same thing has been happening to Trump from the get-go.
Yeah.
For Beck to act like this was a revelation to him, very disingenuous. But go ahead. I just wanted to point that out.
Media, if you can get me, Glenn Beck, to do this.
That's the protest
and in
vote.
case you're only listening to us on radio, I just donned a red Make America Great Again hat.
Okay, this is still him.
Drive me to the point to where I say, you know what? I've had enough. I'll vote for him in 2020. Gladly, I'll vote for him in 2020.
You know what?
Okay, now this is a cut, but go ahead.
Real quick, it sounds like he's doing the vote against the lying media. And by the way, there's a lot of people that voted for Trump in 2016 because they just wanted to slap the establishment in the face. There's people who, I think in the primary were like, you know what? We are so sick of the GOP. We are so sick of what they've been giving to us.
Yes.
We're going to vote for Trump as a protest vote. I think there was massive amounts of votes because of that. And so Beck is actually not saying that he's for Trump. He's basically saying, I'm against you liars in the media. So far.
Right. No, you're right. So far. Okay, now this is the first cut. This goes back to the campaign trail, Donald Trump speaking, and Glenn Beck commenting.
What is it about Trump's candidacy that has you
He's a progressive.
Sorry, he's on the Bill O'Reilly show, but he is stuck on calling Trump a progressive, which we know that means that you're progressing the wrong way. You're progressing away from the Constitution, away from the founding of this country, a progressive.
And I would agree that you need, when you're going to throw a label like that on Trump, if the evidence for that allegation is not self-evidence, self-evident,
right.
Or if there's not something in the recent news that pretty much proves that case, then you better start providing examples.
Okay, well, Bill O'Reilly actually does put the pressure on him.
Okay.
Progressive, Bill. He has a clear, long history of progressive tactics.
Okay.
Tactics.
His answer on the border was the reason why we're having these problems is because the people in Washington, D.C. are stupid. That's pretty much his answer on everything.
It's not progressive.
Implying that if we just have smarter people in Washington, D.C., we can run the government better.
Yeah, but there's no
That's
doubt that Trump.
idea.
Okay, now that was 2016. Calling him progressive. And everybody second guessed Trump. He couldn't do it. He couldn't be the guy. He couldn't make it happen. Now we're back 2018. Glenn Beck.
And then you have the audacity to start furthering the conversation on, well, even if he did mean that, they're not animals. Shut up. If those animals took your daughter and did what they've done to other Americans' daughters, you'd call them an animal. And if they're not animals, I don't know what is. 24 hours a day, hammering one man. Just hammering over and over and over again. And you don't believe in your case. You don't believe that the truth is enough. You just got to make stuff up.
In a way, I think I can't give you any examples, but I really feel like that was happening, maybe not with Glenn Beck, but Pat and Stu and Jeffy and all them people that are on his show were definitely doing that.
Okay, this is cut back to 2016 with Anderson Cooper, Glenn Beck and Anderson Cooper, cut back to 2016. He just said, you got to make stuff up.
Tonight, at least, it looks the president is on the verge of beginning to look like another Republican who said stuff, didn't mean it, and turned into Reince Priebus or Paul Ryan, and that's not good.
That was his attempt. That was his attempt to talk to us, to talk to Brian Smith, Kerry Smith, the rest of us. That was his attempt to say, how does that feel about that Paul Ryan thing? That feels pretty bad, doesn't it? When it's Trump, same thing. Don't make it, you're going to feel bad when this is over with. That was his attempt at telling us, I know how you feel, guys. I felt the same way. But here's what I found out. He's trying to sell us on something that wasn't real. That's 2016. Now fast forward to this week, 2018.
Now that you just won't report on good things, you have to make up bad things.
And for the past year, much of his rage aimed at one man.
Donald Trump is a dictator in the making.
You called him a sociopath, dangerous, unhinged, unstable, and you compared him to Adolf Hitler.
It's unbelievable.
Just making it up.
That cut back to 28. That was 2016, not 2018. You hear it? I did that on purpose. I cut that. It's just unbelievable. He's saying that literally about his own statement 2 years ago.
Pretty much.
It's absolutely unbelievable. So that is today. And I know I ask forgiveness on from Donald Trump on this. Please forgive me, Mr. Trump, for predicting that you will sweep in 2020.
What?
Yes. Hang on. He did. He said, forgive me for saying you'll sweep 2020. Here's why.
Because every time I ever am for a candidate, they always lose. So I won't endorse you because that's the kiss of death.
So he wants him to
win. I
win.
will tell you, the things that you have done as the president are remarkable. Remarkable.
We knew this was going to happen.
I'm about to cry. I'm getting over clamped.
This is why the whole thing about Trump, and you remember, if you remember the timeline and how it went from the very beginning when he gave his very first speech about building the wall and all this kind of stuff, was that you felt like there was a chance that we might have a president that will actually do the things that will make our country better. And we just got to the point where we just decided we were going to conclude that he probably was going to actually do it or try his damnedest to, and he's doing exactly that. So we knew all along. I mean, the only other way that this was going to go down was for us to be massively disappointed by a guy who's not even a career politician, who is pretty bold. You know, he's the "you're fired" guy. Some of you guys may not even remember this. This is a long time ago. When he first came out with his reality show, The Apprentice, the very first season, it was like, hey, let's give this a shot. Nobody knew about it. And all of a sudden you started hearing rumblings in the press about this big businessman, this big CEO, looking somebody right in their eye and saying with very nasty, forceful viciousness, "You're fired." And it was shocking to people. People were shocked to hear it because nobody gets looked at in their eye and told you're fired. I mean, it's so rare.
And if you are, well, you know how you feel when you're shocked that you're being let go. And this
right.
You know what? I brought you in the office today, and I just want to give you a heads up. It's nothing personal, but we're going to have to let you go.
They may not even say it that way. They might say,
that's kind of
we're doing layoffs, and
they come up with some excuse.
Yeah, they'll have some. They never say you're fired. Wait, you did that? You did that? Is that your excuse? All right, you're fired. You know, and that's the way he did it. It was so surgical and so powerful, and it was so shocking that people couldn't wait to tune in. They could not wait to tune in. They were so fired up about it, and so that memory of him kind of stuck with most people like my age, around my age, and just people that were paying attention to pop culture back then remember that about him, and that's kind of the thing that really defines his character. Because before that, what did we know about Trump? He's in a lot of rap lyrics. People know him as being rich. You might remember him for having his trouble.
Huge businessman.
Well, you may have his trouble in Atlantic City when it comes to bankruptcies and stuff like that.
But made a comeback.
But it doesn't really say much about his character. It was The Apprentice where people were like, wow, you know, and then you start to really kind of get his character, and people were so excited to see him fire people.
Speaking about that, just who is he? Kathy Griffith retweeted about, took Trump's tweet and retweeted that you're, why don't you shut the F up? And you're ruining everybody's Sunday. Just go away. And somebody replied to Kathy Griffin and said, that's why Donald Trump's such a millionaire mogul. He lives rent-free in everybody's head.
That's true. That's true. That's what it really boils down to.
So let's finish up with this Glenn Beck. 2018 Glenn Beck.
Yesterday, because of the New York Times and Associated Press, yesterday went and looked at your campaign promises. And then I looked at what you've done. I'm going to do that on the radio here in just a second. It's remarkable. And in fact, just Israel alone may be the ballsiest and best thing I have ever seen any president do in my lifetime. And that's saying something, because I'm a pretty big fan of, killing communism with Ronald Reagan.
The
Oh, they cut to the Cheetos part.
I couldn't do it, but I wanted to remind you that that's the next clip.
Well, the Cheetos thing. The Cheetos thing and all the dumbest things coming out of the Glenn Beck show is all stew.
Right. And for those of you who don't know about the Cheetos thing, Glenn Beck and his crew took bowls of crunched up Cheetos. One was the fire Cheetos, which is red. One was orange Cheetos. Different Cheetos, green. And we don't get that here in Cincinnati. That's on
I wasn't sure
West
if
Coast.
it was actually crushed up Cheetos or if they had purchased the powder that goes on the Cheetos.
Oh, he says in the video that we crushed this up.
I would have asked if the company that makes Cheetos, I don't know which one it is, if they could send us boxes of the powder. That's what I would have said. They may have said, no, we're not going to put it.
Probably.
But they were using the word Cheetos.
Right, and they put these, the goggles that you wear, the real tiny goggles you wear if you're going in a tanning booth.
I would think that Cheetos either A, sponsored this, or B, would have said, do not use our names. Do not use our name in this.
So they put it in a bowl, and they stuck their face in the Cheetos, and he rolled his face back and forth so his entire face was covered in crumbs of Cheetos and says, now, do I look like Donald Trump?
That was definitely a Stu thing. The problem with Beck is that this is a childhood friend, I think. I think Stu has been friends with Glenn Beck since long before he became famous. And so you're not going to walk away from a friendship like that, even though it's destroying your career. Because at the end of the day, Glenn Beck's career will be done one day. He'll retire. It may not be for a long time, but he'll retire. And all you're going to have left is your friends and family, and you're not going to want to walk away from that because of this. But I hate to say it, but Stu is definitely destroying Glenn Beck. There's no doubt about it. So,
and I don't know why he puts up with it. I really don't.
Because it's his friend, and he can't say otherwise. And he may not even realize that it's the reason. It's the reason. Now, Jeffy and Pat are contributing to his demise, but not like Stu. He speaks with this confidence about being right, about things that he is so wrong about. It's unbelievable. Just totally wrong. Anyway.
It's unfortunate. So what really went down? Well, Donald Trump had a meeting with folks out in San Diego, lawmakers in San Diego, and one of them by the name of Kristen with a K, Kristen Gaspar. She's San Diego County Supervisor. She was in on the meeting, and they were discussing ways of dealing with and taking care of MS-13 gang members. Folks, if you don't know, and I did scope about this a little bit, but I lived out in Los Angeles for about 10 years. MS-13 is the most wretched, awful, god-awful gang out there, and it's because of MS-13 there is no Compton gangs. Remember the Bloods and the Crips?
Yeah.
Remember how bad they were?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, MS-13 ran them out. It's called L Compton now. Compton is literally all Hispanic.
Which is really weird because back in the 90s, like any movie that was either based around L.A. or anything like that, they had very large black communities, and you're saying that they're just gone now.
Right. If you go to South Central, which is South Los Angeles, but South in the sense of Compton, Watts, and some of the older folks on the show might know of the Watts riots from back in the 70s, I believe.
It was 70s, I think, and then, of course, you had the 1992 riots,
right?
Which was the Rodney King stuff.
Right. So Linwood, Watts, Compton, Google it, see the map of it. It's all Hispanic. It is all Hispanic. Southgate. Mm-hmm. Southgate's all Hispanic now.
And so when you see the movie Friday, that's not what South Central looks like.
Yeah, they sold that house to the Hispanics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you call it Black Flight?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people who do call it Black Flight.
Wow.
And they've actually gone more further west and lived more out El Segundo. I remember that because of the song. I left my wallet in El Segundo.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, never mind, folks.
Okay.
So out in El Segundo, out by the airport, there's more of a black community out there, more of a black presence. In the schools, in the high schools out there in South Central and L.A., where they integrate blacks and Mexicans or Hispanics, I don't want to say Mexicans because it's usually Guatemala,
right.
Honduras, Mexico, El Salvador, all of it. Down South America.
I think there's a lot of Central Americans that are not Mexicans that are coming up through the border too, because this is a little anecdotal, but it's kind of interesting. So I work at a.
Oh, but hold on. In the high schools,
yeah, go ahead.
The black gangs and the Hispanic gangs literally bleeding, cutting, and killing each other in schools. That's what all the big riots are. That's when all the school shutdowns are. It's when the black gangs and the Hispanic gangs go head to head. And the whites, you talk about white flight, there ain't none. They're gone. They already flew.
Wow. So, wow, that's unfortunate. Well, the thing about, Mexican, Guatemalan, all. So, I work at this company, I will not name.
Okay.
That is very, very large.
They haven't paid us yet.
They haven't paid us. Yeah, maybe they can, we could get sponsored by them, maybe.
Yeah.
So, it's a very, very large company with lots and lots of employees, and they have this huge map on the wall, because it's an extremely diverse company. And they have this huge map of the world. And it says, there's a sign that says, tell us where you're from. And put a sticker on the map to show where you're from. And, there's dots all over this entire globe map or whatever. This is the map of the world. And I know there's a very centralized concentration of stickers.
No, don't tell me this.
Well, keep in mind, this company is very diverse, so they're all over this map, all over. But the most concentrated spot is Guatemala.
My wife worked there too, and she said that when they would speak Spanish, most people see my wife because she's so light skinned, very very fair skinned,
right?
That they don't realize that she's fluent.
Well, her first language is
Spanish.
Yeah.
And so they would start speaking in Spanish about everybody at the shop.
Okay.
And then she would speak up and say, hey.
I know what you're saying. She should have kept it quiet.
I know she should have, but, hey, I know what you're talking about. But
I told you about my one friend, my Puerto Rican friend from New York, didn't I?
Yeah.
From Brooklyn. He's Puerto Rican, but he looks just like Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Looks
that's
dead
right.
on it.
Except
a little bit darker hair, a little bit darker. His hair I would consider dark brown. Flea has kind of almost like a dark blonde, like a dirty blonde. But his face, the shape of his head, I think even his teeth.
Flea is also going for that homeless shift look.
Yeah, if he's wearing anything, because don't they go on stage with just the
sock on the crotch? Yeah,
and that's it, just one sock.
Well, that's all you need.
Right. So anyway, he looks like Flea, and he's down in Mexico because we were stationed in Yuma, Arizona.
Oh, right.
So we're down in Mexico. Actually, I had heard this story secondhand the next day at work. So a bunch of him and a bunch of his friends are down in this club in, what was it, Algodones?
Yeah, Algodones, Mexico.
Yeah, Algodones, Mexico. And they're standing around and talking to the girls and whatnot, and there was this group of friends that were Mexican talking crap about them.
Sure.
And he was listening in because he understood the language. But he doesn't look like he would understand the language.
Right.
And finally he hears enough and turns to the guy and says, in Spanish, I'll translate it for you.
Okay, good.
He says, I bet you didn't know I could speak Spanish, did you? And the guy's face just goes, oh. and then of course, being the culture that they are, which is they love boxing.
Yeah.
He just immediately squared up. He was just
your friend from New York.
No, the Mexican guy.
Yeah, in Mexico.
Yeah, he was like, oh man, like he didn't.
I guess we gotta
he didn't
fight this
plan on a fight, a boxing match, but he knew when he was caught talking crap about him by the guy.
That's what you do.
Yeah, they squared up, and so of course, a lot of them are fair fighters. They really take the boxing seriously. So everybody told all their friends, stay out. It's 1-on-1 unless somebody else jumps in. And so they let him fight it out.
Wow.
But it's interesting, the language situation. Kind of funny.
So back to the MS-13 gang members. I mean, they
story time.
Right. I understand. MS-13 gang members. I mean, the most wretched, awful beheadings. The Colombian necktie thing where they cut your throat while you and stuff.
Yeah.
Just some of the worst things you've ever seen in a movie about mobsters. The worst of the worst.
Like when you hear about stuff happening to people who are prisoners of war in like Afghanistan and those places, that they got nothing on MS-13.
Right. Not only that, but the big thing about, and I've preached about this forever and ever and ever, putting up a solid, giant, beautiful wall will stop people from being murdered and raped because women and children and folks in Mexico pay a coyote who could also be a MS-13 gang member to raise money, take them across the border, get them out into the desert, rape them, leave them for dead. It's what's happening. So that big, beautiful wall will actually save lives.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. 100%.
And initiation to get into the gang, the MS-13 gang.
Oh, did you hear what they do?
It's all kinds of stuff, but go ahead.
So they'll employ their very fine-looking females that are friends of MS-13 members, and those females will draw the targets, if you will, into a place that's more secluded. You know, they'll try to basically tell them, hey, we'll do stuff for you, and
come over here.
Maybe sexual or whatever. And of course, the guys are probably like, wow, this is my lucky day.
Yeah.
They don't realize that they're being lured into not a good place. And when they get to where they can be taken advantage of, they are then actually murdered. They're drawn out by females, not all dressed up and looking nice, looking like they're going to get lucky tonight, and they're drawn out to be killed. And why do they do this? You're probably thinking, why would they do this? That's the initiation. These people that want to get into MS-13 are told, your initiation is you got to have a murder on your belt.
Yeah.
And so they would get the girls to help them get, because it's hard to murder somebody. You got to be in the right place to kind of catch somebody, and then you got to be able to do it without getting caught by the cops or being identified by witnesses. So you get the girls to help you to draw them out into a place where you can perform this without ended up getting caught or getting thrown in jail or whatever. So that's what happens.
Other times, they will do random killings. Like just random on this drive-by. Like they drive by, see somebody on the side of the street just standing there, just stop. All right, kill them.
Yeah. So Well, what's
talking about an animal?
So why are we talking about MS-13? Apparently, a statement was said by Donald Trump in a news conference.
Correct.
That was taken out of context in order to fraudulently report this to the public and
to say that
being a lie, right?
It's like when Donald Trump said they're rapists.
Yeah, not only that, there's several of them, but their rapist ones is bad because to this day there's people who believe that actually happened. So that's just real quick. There was I think it was a stump speech, and Donald Trump was talking about how the Mexico and other countries, but let's just use Mexico because it's our border, are sending not their best people, but they're sending their worst people. And he proceeds to list different types of people that they would send, which are bad people. And he's like, they're sending their this, they're sending their this, and they're sending their rapists. So the mainstream media,
they are rapists. They're sending rapists.
They cut out the part where he was listing the different types of people that they are sending.
Right.
To just say they're rapists.
Right.
And it sounds like he's saying that all Mexicans are rapists when you take it out of context says they're rapists. But actually it wasn't THEIR, it was THEY''RE.
Right.
Which is a big difference. Big difference.
Huge. Another world. So
they did the same thing here.
Yep. Right here on Fox News with Christian, and she was in the meeting with Donald Trump.
All right, the Homeland Security Secretary talking about comments alleged to come from the president referring to all illegal immigrants, maybe all immigrants, period, as animals, when in fact he was talking about MS-13 members who are violent, ruthless, and, well, animals. The chairwoman of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Christian Gaspar, was at that meeting with the president when he made those comments, and that was the group to which he was specifically referring. She joins me right now. There's no mystery to this, Supervisor. So Are you surprised so many media groups that pounced on this wrongly and generalized about it wrongly, that no matter what you think of the president, he did not say what they said he said?
The media owes us an apology in this case. They were in the very same room where I sat. They knew the context of this, and the media was reckless, using this to further a narrative that is absolutely false. Everybody in that room, including the media, knew the president was referring to MS-13 gang members, the worst of the worst offenders out there that kill people in public, decapitate people, murder for fun. To use the word animals doesn't even begin to describe MS-13 gang members. If anything, the president was soft using that term. Shame on the media for sharing this narrative. It didn't happen.
This is from the president.
There can be an MS-13 gang member I know about. If they don't reach a certain threshold, I cannot tell ICE about them.
We have people coming into the country, or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals. And we're taking them out of the country at a level and at a rate that's never happened before. And because of the weak laws, they come in fast. We get them, we release them, we get them again, we bring them out. It's crazy.
You know, the reluctance to even identify MS-13 members any other way is also kind of crazy, isn't it, Kristen?
Absolutely, it is. And what the president was referring to, these weak sanctuary state laws that have been implemented by the governor of California and across the country and other cities as well, you know, they're placing back into our country 142 gang members. California's taken the brunt of it with nearly 90 gang members put right back into our state. You know, in California, we have a governor who has compromised the safety of our residents. It's put our sovereignty as a nation at risk. We're fighting back against our own governor who's so soft on crime that he's rolling out the welcome mat for MS-13 gang members. It's entirely unacceptable.
Yeah, California, y'all got some problems out there. I forget the woman's name, but there's a woman who wrote the sanctuary law. She was in a place of power. She was in, I think she had some kind of mayoralship or something of the sort in San Francisco, and she wrote the law, very proud that she wrote this sanctuary city law. And she was on Tucker Carlson last week. He had her on, and he said, now explain to me why you're running again, because she got out of politics totally. And she was upset that they took her sanctuary city law and ruined it. They added hardened felon criminals to the sanctuary law. That you could be a hardened felon criminal, come to our city, and we'll protect you. And she's just livid that they would ruin their sanctuary city law and just go so far overboard with it. And folks, you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. I mean, this woman obviously was blinded to the fact that when as a Democrat, when you write a law, that's just to baby steps to get further and further down the road.
Right.
And so Tucker said, I could almost send you money for this. I could almost support your campaign. And she said, yes, please do. Please. My website, www. And he's like, well, yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. Come on. We got to cut this out.
Wow. Oh, I don't blame him for doing that. But, yeah, the whole thing. Okay, so, yeah, MS-13 are definitely animals. There's no doubt about that. But the media they couldn't help themselves. The problem is, and I don't necessarily think – I think it would be a conspiracy theory to say that Trump knew that they were going to take this out of context. So he worded that response exactly like that so that to bait them into doing it. Because he did – it almost sounded like he was starting a new comment.
Yes.
And he left out the context that she mentioned, which was MS-13. And so I could definitely see the lying fake news media – not being able to stop themselves. They're like, oh my gosh, he started a new statement from the start.
Yes, he did.
And went through it and without the context of what the woman said right before he said it, was a sheriff? He was a sheriff?
Yeah.
This sounds like he's calling all immigrants animals.
Every one of them's an animal.
We
They're
are going to
all
get traction with
animals.
this. You know, I have a friend on Twitter who said something really profound today. And this is a perfect example of this in action real time. He said, information age? You must be talking about the misinformation age. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a really cool tweet he put out there. And I ended up talking to him about it a little bit. And it really caused me to brainstorm that whole situation, because I was just talking the other day about the information age. I can't remember who I was telling it about, talking to about the information age. But you know, the whole thing about the internet coming to be is that for the first time in our lives, we're able to have information at our fingertips. You know, before the internet came along, you could have an encyclopedia.
It would be tough to do this show without the internet. It would be
almost impossible.
Well,
you almost needed journalists on the ground. Like just the other day, I saw the original 1978 Superman.
Oh wow!
Clark Kent and Lois Lane just died. Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
she just died. The woman that played Lois Lane.
That was she was up to what, 2 packs a day?
Oh, you heard her voice? I think she switched to cigars. I think she was eating tobacco leaves like a salad. But anyway,
was their salad? Oh my God!
So anyway, in the movie, they go up and they're in this giant open office with desks everywhere, and everybody's frantically typing news stories away, and people had to run out onto the street to cover stories, and that's the only way you got your information.
Right.
And these days, if you listen to Tim Pool, there's not very many people doing what he does, which is get out on the street and get the raw data, get the raw information. Talk to the people who were eyewitnesses. Look with your own eyes at the different places where certain things happen. The things that we call news is sourced by so few people, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so we go to the information age, which is the internet. Everybody's got everything at their fingertips. And my friend Alex talks about the misinformation age, and it just dawned on me. And there's baby boomers responding to him saying, well, you know, people are now misusing this new information age to spread propaganda. And I said, no, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. Are they now misinforming the public, or are we now realizing using the information age, using information at our fingertips as a tool, are we now realizing that we've been lied to this whole time?
We are, yes.
That
yes.
We have been misinformed in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s. And it wasn't until humanity, everybody,
starving for the knowledge, the information, just desperately wanting
they go out there and they start researching themselves because they can. They never could before. Think about the ability to abuse the power of communicating information to the masses without having their ability to check whether or not you're lying to them or not.
Right.
I mean, you could tell them whatever you want.
You could tell them that the president isn't paralyzed and in a wheelchair.
That's what they did. Yeah, as far as everybody was concerned, FDR could walk around on his own volition and do whatever he wanted.
JFK could never have women coming in and out of the White House.
Yeah, all they had to do was not ever talk about that.
No, don't talk about it. No.
Exactly. So that's just a couple of many.
Not only that, but people that we were connected with through the internet, like Jack Posobiec and even Mark Dice and Paul Joseph Watson. I mean, we wouldn't know these guys doing the hard work in the background, finding out information on different topics. We do a whole show of topics, so we've got a wide range of information, but we get our bits and pieces from all these other guys that are doing a lot of work on the background.
Well, think about what we do. We couldn't do what we're doing unless we got hired on by a giant multi-million-dollar corporation whose agenda would then be dictated to us.
It would be like us trying to do Rush Limbaugh's show back in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
How do you do that? You've got to have a multi-million-dollar corporation behind you.
Right, and he kind of did it from the ground up, but it's interesting how when he first got started, the internet probably wasn't even thought of. It wasn't even conceived.
It was back in the 80s.
Yeah, so when he was doing it, he could never foresee that there was going to be a lot more people like him that were going to come and fill his shoes eventually. So, but no, it's interesting. Misinformation age.
That we're discovering all the misinformation.
Right.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense. The White House put out a PSA on this MS gang member thing. And this is just their PSA that they put out, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Okay.
It's one of the sheriffs. I don't know what all the stars mean anymore. I guess
he's a 4-star cop.
Something, yeah.
Okay.
So he was there at the meeting, and this is what he had to say about the meeting with Donald Trump.
This meeting with the president today was tremendously impactful. It gave all of us an opportunity to express our concerns about the safety of our community. This legislation, SB 54, ties the hands of law enforcement officers throughout California. This legislation prevents the sheriffs from communicating with our federal law enforcement partners in a way that protects our community. What we really need is everybody working together to promote a healthier, safer community and not interfering with our ability to hold people accountable who victimize and exploit others.
That guy's really well spoken. I was like, what? Like listening to how he formulated his sentences.
I was mesmerized.
Yeah, I'm mesmerized. This guy's really good.
He's got the voice.
And he's got a good voice.
Yeah. So, but I mean,
he's clean and articulate.
Yeah, very clean and articulate. And that is an excellent PSA to what is going on out there. The Democrats, again, I'm saying the blue wave has disappeared because the Democrat Party is running on a platform of pure and unadulterated insanity.
Which is what happens when you don't have a platform to start with, other than virtue signaling and calling everybody racist and all that. I'm so glad that stuff doesn't work anymore. And it just took the courage of people to say, I am not going to let that work on me anymore.
Well, we weren't going to let the racist, bigot, sexist, homophobe because we've been desensitized from it so much.
That's what it is.
But also, we've been lied to for so long. The Paul Ryans, the Mitt Romneys, the John McCains, the Mitch McConnells, the Lindsey Grahams. Folks, we are so fed up and so done with all the
Collectively,
yes.
Yeah. That's what it really boiled down to.
And the whole joke, we all knew what the joke was. We all knew the joke was vote for the lesser of two evils.
Yes. You called it a joke. I mean, that's what we had to live. It was not funny. Oh, it was demotivating.
Right, so that's why you got Donald Trump. And telling you, Glenn Beck making the comment that you look at Donald Trump's track record of what he has done, what he promised he was going to do, and what he's actually done, and it is literally phenomenal. He's a total phenom. It is insane what he's able to do with all the fighting, all the hate, and all the vitriol, all the anger from the media, from other politicians, from other deep state players, from everything, and yet he's still able to get this done. It almost feels like, Carrie, that they're trying to stop Trump because he's making them look so bad. It's like a new guy who just joins the union.
That is a big part of it, actually.
A new guy who just joins the union. And he goes all out to get, I want to impress my supervisor. I want to do that. Whoa, son. That don't go around here.
Hey. You're making us all look bad. Somebody actually said that to me at work, jokingly, because there is no union at the place I'm at. But they were like
tongue in cheek.
It was totally tongue in cheek, and I had to crack up laughing. They were like, you need to slow down because you're making us all look bad. And I wasn't even moving fast. They were actually saying this to me because they had somebody else say it to them, and it was serious.
Yeah.
And they were mad. So
that's funny.
She said it to me because she was venting.
Right.
And I was like, "Are you serious?" And she started laughing.
So
but anyway,
I've got to correct myself on Ana Navarro. I believed that it was her that when she was in power, politician, she was Republican. She was at a hotel party that was out of control.
Susan Collins, Republican?
Right, exactly. But she was at a hotel and it was out of control, and the cops were called, and the 911 call, she was on it, said, "You know who I am," and she's all drunk. I honestly thought it was her, and I got her mixed up with the real person who it was. So it wasn't Ana Navarro because there is no video of her out there.
So
she didn't do it.
Was it not her?
No, it wasn't her. It was a different female politician. Same state, though, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, back in 2016, Ana Navarro, a former Republican politician, tweeted out, "Should Donald Trump drop out of the race? ? He should drop out of the human race.
Oh, that's a threat.
He's an animal." Apologies to all animals.
Is this part of the MS3 stuff? So the MS13. So the MS13 thing, apparently, starting with Ana Navarro and followed up by a lot of other people, the left has aligned themselves with MS13 by defending them.
Yes. This has been no. This is for real.
I know,
and it didn't.
I know.
It didn't stop until the Texas school shooting. Once the Texas school shooting happened, I'm just saying. So real quick, here's John Nolte from Breitbart News. Real quick, he wrote a whole piece on this, but this is just a little excerpt of it. He wrote, "Then after that lie had been spread around the world, the truth finally got its shoes on when the media was forced to acknowledge Trump was referring only to a vicious gang of unrepentant rapists and murderers."
Right.
Nonetheless, even after these retractions, we were still treated to any number of sanctimonious riffs from the media about how it is wrong to dehumanize a gang of organized rapists and murderers as animals. In fact, over his animal remark, Navarro herself compared Trump to the Nazis. Trump is, quote, "Trump is in very bad company," Navarro tweeted. Nazis referred to as Jews as rats. Slave owners reviewed slaves as subhuman animals. She did the same on CNN, basement-rated New Day. The name of the TV show, New Day. Or the show New Day.
I'm so glad that didn't work. I see what she was trying to do there. The problem is it makes it look like you're defending MS-13.
Yes, clearly.
But, maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, that would have worked. It would have worked. It just, maybe not, though. Because, well, I'll tell you why it would have worked. Because the truth wouldn't have come out soon enough.
Right.
In fact, by her saying that, and she may have actually been thinking this when she said this. She may have been thinking, well, they're not tying it to MS-13 because we've already planted the lie out there that he was talking about all immigrants.
Oh, right.
So I can say this and say that he's dehumanizing good people. Not MS-13 because we already made that lie. We've already established the lie to the people that he was calling all immigrants animals, so now we can segue over to the Nazi reference and to Nazi and who else? I guess it was just the Nazi.
The Jews.
Oh, and the slaves.
Jews being called rats, and slaves owners calling their slaves
subhuman animals.
Right.
So yeah, let's make that segue, not realizing that the interwebs has headed her off at the pass. That literally is what happened. Yeah. The internet heads her off at the pass. She comes out and blurts that out thinking that we're still on this narrative that we're talking about all immigrants. Meanwhile, people at home are listening to her. Is she really defending MS-13? That's not what's happened.
And the only reason why we're still talking about this, folks, because there's a lot of... This is
the culture war.
This is all they got.
Yes, it's the culture war, but you're right, Brian. This is their entire bread and butter.
This is it. Yeah.
This is it. Interesting.
So at Instapundit on Twitter, very funny, very good stuff, tweeted out yesterday, everyone has a spark of divinity in them, and it's wrong to speak of them in a dehumanizing way. And then this after the school shooting. Today, the NRA is a bunch of bloody-handed child murderers. That's exactly from one day to the next. That's exactly what
I'm
happened.
assuming Instapundit is liberal. Because they said everyone has a spark of divinity. They were defending MS-13.
No, they were saying that this is what liberals said.
Oh,
yeah. Yesterday,
okay.
the narrative yesterday.
Okay.
Sorry, the narrative yesterday was everybody has a spark.
Because
of
I'm
divinity.
sitting here thinking, wow, is Instapundit a bunch of liberal? Is that a liberal rag? But no, you're saying the Instapundit reported yesterday that mainstream media was saying everyone has a spark of divinity in them, and it's wrong to speak of them in a dehumanizing way. Which, yeah, you can do that. You can do that when you're talking about. I mean, there are people out there that are so evil that I think you can go down that road. And by the way, you just mentioned NRA, a bunch of bloody-handed child murderers,
right?
But they also dehumanize Nazis, and we do too. I mean, who's going to go out there and say, Brian, I know the Nazis gassed 6 million Jews.
Yeah.
And they were responsible for World War II.
Yeah.
Almost solely. But, they were actually human. And we shouldn't dehumanize. I mean, who's making this argument?
I'm not.
Nobody's making this argument. Why is it okay to do that? Which, by the way, I agree it's okay to do that with Nazis. We should be able to do that with MS-13 too. And by the way, I think the things that MS-13 are doing are right up there with the worst things that Nazis ever do. You can't sit there and say, yeah, well, Nazis killed 6 million Jews. MS-13 is nowhere near that. But, I don't know which way I'd rather go, either in the gas chamber or the way that MS-13 are going. But, whoa. I think you just messed up my... there we go.
I had it too.
Ooh, man, my ears almost blew out there.
Pop the ears.
All right. So anyway.
NumbersUSA.com, taxpayers spending $18 billion on healthcare for illegal aliens each year.
Gosh.
It's got to stop. But you did mention World War II, and we're transitioning to some of the shootings, some of the things that happened this week. I want to mention our grandfathers who have passed on. The grandfather that we share in common in the Smith family has passed on. He was in the Merchant Marines during World War II. And my father on my mother's side was in the Army on the ground in World War II. And he was over in the, I'm going to get it wrong, but over in the Philippines of sorts. So he didn't fight the Nazis. He was actually fighting the Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And his stories were very, very, very minimal. And when he did tell a story, it's usually pretty awful, pretty bad, pretty awful, because he was on the ground. He was in the Army.
Wow.
Wasn't good at all.
So he was really in it.
Yeah, in it, definitely. I ran into, and they've passed on. What? How long ago? Like 7 years ago?
Good set, probably about, yeah.
We were at a church picnic today, and I ran into this older guy by himself. Want to sit down in the shade by the table I was at, and I just haven't seen, never seen him before ever. I've been going to this church for 6 years. Never seen him before.
Was this his first time, or you just never noticed?
I just never noticed.
Okay.
He's been going to the church since 1975.
Okay. So about 43 years?
Just about. Well, don't push it, man. Don't push it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 43. And we got to chit-chatting. He was in World War II.
Oh, wow.
In the Navy.
He's got to be pushing 100.
He's 93.
Okay.
He got into the war. I did the numbers.
He must have been a baby when he got in.
I did the numbers. He got into the Navy, into the war, right after Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
So he was like
1941.
41, and then depending on his birthday, whatever, but 41, 42 is when he got into the Navy. Sailed with Navy, was out in the Pacific. He said, well, first off, he agreed, had dropped bombs, had to. That's what ended it. Had to do it.
Yeah, if you fought in the Pacific Theater, you probably were like, oh, we dropped 2 giant nuclear bombs on them, and now they're surrendering? Whew! Phew, thank
goodness,
God.
right?
Yeah.
So I asked him what type of ship he was on. He was on like a cargo ship type thing that they would send the Marines over, dump them off, and then go back and get more.
Okay.
And that had been a tough job knowing that you're seeing the Marines probably for the last time.
Oh, wow.
Hitting the ground. And then he did mention that on his ship, a kamikaze came at his ship. He said within feet. I don't know how far away, how close it was, but he said it missed their ship within feet.
That's like less than yards.
Yes, yes. And he said it shook him so much that he prayed about it and he said, well, God must have something in it for me. I'm supposed to be doing something. So I just asked him all kinds of questions. I went through the presidents, and just getting back because I feel the loss with my grandfather that never spoke. My grandfather, my mother's side,
hardly any of
never
them spoke about it. Hardly any of them did. We grew up like if you're a Generation Xer, we all grew up with our childhood with our grandfathers, and all of them were World War II vets, and they didn't talk about it. Nobody talked about it.
He was a happy-go-lucky guy, real happy-go-lucky, very super honest, super nice, super cool. Smiled at my son. He just thought the interaction was really great. He was just a really good guy, but all his answers were just one-line answers.
That's tough.
He was, and I at one point in time...
93, did he have some energy? I mean, usually at 93, you're just kind of like...
No, he had a great smile on his face. He had the walker thing, so he was a little slow. But
did it feel like you were prying a little bit too much?
After a while, so I just kind of stopped.
Oh,
especially when I got into the different presidents.
He's like, I don't know.
Well, we brought up Truman. He said Truman was there was a good president. Truman was a good man. I like Truman.
Okay.
And then Eisenhower. Eisenhower. You mean General Eisenhower?
Oh,
I said, yeah.
You got to refer to him as general, even though president is higher rank. There's a special respect that military people have for the general.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, especially General Eisenhower. He was like the architect of.
And I know the president is the head of all the military. It's the highest position in all the military, but it's an elected position versus a general who comes up through the ranks.
Right, right. Yeah, I could see that.
Anyways, folks, if you see somebody out there that's older, don't push him to the side. Don't ignore him. They may have a great story to tell you that you'll never hear ever again. And I had him meet all three of my kids, and it was just, I don't know, there was just something about this guy. And I don't know any, and I told him, I said, I don't know anybody anymore.
Yeah.
World War II.
It's weird. There was, like, World War II veterans were everywhere when I was growing up. And it's hard, I guess life is what it is. Like these days, right, we all know it's rare to run into a World War II veteran, but it's so strange to somebody like me and probably Brian too, where we just everywhere. If you saw somebody of a certain age, like grandfather age, younger grandfather in their 60s or whatnot when we were growing up, you just knew they were definitely 100% chance World War II veteran.
Right.
Like,
right.
It would be rare to find somebody in that age range that wasn't.
Well,
and now it's like there's none left.
Well, and think about it. Like I said, my grandfather was born, on my mother's side, was born in 1818.
Wow.
Our grandfather?
Wait, 1918?
19, sorry.
You said
19,
18. I'm like,
19,
how many hundreds of years old is he?
1918. Our grandfather?
1916.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was definitely much older.
He was long into his 90s, I think, when he died. So
right. And then he was born in 1924. And I even mentioned to him, I said, my daughter's 10. Do you remember what it was like when you were 10 in 1934? Yeah, there was a depression going on.
So if he was like, 20, he would have been, during Pearl Harbor, he would have been 17.
Yeah,
17.
Right on the edge.
But we didn't actually start fighting for many, many months. And we didn't even do the invasion of Normandy. But you say it was in the Pacific Theater.
Right.
But we didn't actually invade Europe until 1944, which was about 30 months later.
Wow.
I actually did the math today.
Why?
Because somebody keeps on. Guys, I'm going to change the subject right now, but this is why I did the math. It was 30 months between the time that Pearl Harbor bombed us to the time we were invading Europe. And guess how many months later we totally won the war? We dropped 2 bombs. By the way, nobody had any clue about a nuclear bomb prior to all this. 30 months go by. We rebuild our entire army, our entire navy. We invade Europe, right? 30 months later. 15 months after that, drop 2 bombs. The whole thing's over. 15 months later. Why do I bring this up? Why did I do the math? Because somebody keeps telling me to be patient about this, about justice. You need to be, justice takes time. Sessions is doing stuff. He's getting it all together. Well, guess what? It's been about 15 months, almost exactly 15 months since Sessions became the Attorney General. 15 months, all right? That was how long it took for our invading force that invaded Europe to not only completely win the war in Europe, but then also win the war in Asia. The bombs were dropped 15 months later. The whole thing was over.
And your dad made a very valid point in here in our just outside our city. There's a bridge that goes over a 4-lane highway.
Yeah, that was actually really funny when he said that.
And he made the comment that
it took years to finish that bridge.
It took, 4 or 5 years?
It was a lot of years.
So we went in, conquered all of Europe and Asia, and half the time it took them to build this stupid bridge.
Yeah. So think about that. For all you guys are like, guys, we're only a year and a half into Trump's presidency. Justice takes time. Guys, from the time, and by the way, when Pearl Harbor was bombed by Japan, they destroyed our Navy. We had to rebuild our Navy. We didn't have any kind of an Air Force ready to go into combat, and we had to find everybody to join and train to fight a war.
Right.
Like, it wasn't the way it is now. Now we have a standing army with billions and billions, maybe trillions and trillions of dollars worth of equipment ready to go into a full world war at any time. We didn't have that in 1939, 40, 41. But when that happened, Pearl Harbor happened, and we all put our nose to the grindstone. 30 months later, and by the way, before D-Day, a lot of people don't know this. I had to learn this many, many years after the fact. But everybody thinks Pearl Harbor happened, then we sat there and did nothing until D-Day, which was 30 months later. Actually, we were fighting alongside the British in Africa and many other places, fighting the Nazis in Africa. All right, and that was before D-Day. So there was a lot of fighting happening before D-Day. So D-Day was the opening of the second front in Europe. 30 months later, we invaded Europe, and then 15 months after that, the war was totally over, and we had developed nuclear weapons. We had rockets had been developed. The jet engine was developed and put into practice by the Nazis at the time. But then, it's amazing what kind of technology came out of World War II. The world was a completely changed place technologically after World War II. And we're talking about waiting years for justice to happen. I mean, it's time to start going.
Now granted, I thought the Manhattan Project, I didn't realize it started so early, but they're claiming the Manhattan Project started in 1939. The bomb, Little Boy, was dropped in August of 1945. However, Dr. Oppenheimer and the crew in the Manhattan Project, splitting an atom and creating a nuclear bomb or an atomic bomb.
It's the same thing.
And to be able to do that, and I mean, they were taking bets. One bet was that it would start and never stop, and annihilate the world.
Yeah, that the chain reaction from splitting the atom would cause. Well, we all know that the atoms in a chunk of uranium, will split each other, and that's the chain reaction. But people were speculating that the chain reaction would then go on to the atmosphere, and the entire Earth would be engulfed in a nuclear fission.
Which You're talking back in the 1940s. That's not too far-fetched to think that that's what that might happen.
Right. They
It's
thought
never
the
been done
moon was
before.
made out of Swiss cheese.
True that. So anyways, you're right. You're absolutely right that this has gone on way too long.
I know.
And
I know. I'm not. Oh, you got the segue. Yes, you do. I love this one. This one's good.
Now this is a long video,
but it's worth it.
I absolutely
so worth it.
You've got to hear Judge Janine's. I've never played her full open, which is like 7 minutes. I've never played the full open, but you absolutely must hear the full open on Jeff Sessions and what in the flying Sam Hill is going on in the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, and
all the alphabet groups.
Yeah, all the alphabet groups, and what's going on with our government as we know it today. So segueing over, Judge Janine, take it away.
So, here we are at the one-year anniversary of the Mueller investigation, staffed with the singularly most biased special counsel attorneys in American history. And since then, we have witnessed events unfold, which are so unbelievable, so unimaginable, you'd have to be wearing a tinfoil hat or a card-carrying member of the conspiracy party to even believe it exists. We watched a president claim he'd been wiretapped. The Democrats chuckled. But he was right. He was right. Prosecutors and FBI agents working to change the course of political history. A shadow government whose agenda is to maintain their own power and control. A deep state we thought existed only on the pages of novels, alive and well here in the United States of America. We've watched in real time as text messages revealed those agents conspiring not only to interfere with the presidential election, but to then create the basis to overthrow a sitting president. $10 million and millions of documents later, nothing, I repeat, nothing has touched the president in spite of their claims.
Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have. I still maintain that there is evidence of collusion, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now.
And every time we hear more is coming, the deep state does nothing but continue to show how deep and dirty it is. The head of the FBI lies to Congress. He even lies about the statutory elements of a crime because he wants to protect Hillary Clinton. That same director conducts a laughable, make-believe investigation of his favorite Hillary with no grand jury, no search warrant, no subpoenas, where he sat back and watched as the accused destroyed evidence, deleted emails, with his cohorts in the Department of Justice hands out immunity deals without ever requiring that they testify. He exonerates the target before the investigation is even over. So biased that he allows the same FBI agents who exonerate Hillary to create an investigation against Donald Trump based on a fake dossier to create the basis for surveillance of the Trump campaign, paid for by the candidate they wanted to win. The FBI knew that Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid for that dossier that had no basis in fact. They even tried to get a friendly judge to take the case and issue the warrant by trying to set up a dinner party as a cover. That judge ended up recusing himself from the prosecution of Michael Flynn. For months, we've watched as the FBI and the DOJ have denied having any documents. They said there are no emails on the Clinton-Loretta Lynch Tarmac meeting, but there were. They lied to us. We watched as members of Congress try again and again to get documents from the Department of Justice and the FBI, but they won't hand them over. They stonewall, and there seems to be no way to get those documents. And all the while, the Department of Justice and the FBI sit back and watch as their candidate approved the sale of 20% of our uranium to Russia and then pocket $145 million for their so-called charity. All the while, the Clinton Foundation receives hundreds of millions of dollars from people doing business with the U.S. government, our government. And when Jeff Sessions decides to recuse himself, Rod Rosenstein, a man we have never even heard of, appoints his pal, Bob Mueller, to investigate our president. And this week, we find out the FBI ran a spy operation, actually placing an informant, a mole, in the Trump campaign before there were any legal grounds to do any such thing. It was a classic totalitarian third world tactic. This person has as much as been identified. He's engaged in skullduggery going back to Bush 41. My FBI sources tell me there would be no reason for him to even run into a Page or a Papadopoulos. And get this, he's disappeared for the last 9 months. Now, I want you to remember that you heard it here first. Any collector, their name for an informant working on a national campaign, must have a sign-off by the Attorney General. Here, that would be liar Loretta Lynch. Lynch herself would have had to have approved an informant on that campaign. And if she didn't, then the FBI under James Comey was even more corrupt, going rogue in their attempt to destroy Donald Trump. But what, ladies and gentlemen, is unmistakable in all of this is that the single most dangerous person to the agenda of President Trump, the Republican Party, and ultimately to all Americans, is the Attorney General of the United States himself, Jeff Sessions. The man has done nothing to make anyone responsible for the blatant corruption, the unmistakable perjury, the in-your-face obstruction of our laws that we've seen play out every day. He has fought the release of telling documents that would put an end to this horrible period in America's political history, documents that would make clear that the criminals in this attempt to overthrow an American president. He's even argued that he doesn't want to release records of Hillary because she's now a private citizen. This man has done nothing to create confidence that wrongdoers will be accountable, answerable. He has done nothing to create confidence on the part of the American people in our system of justice. And with all the power and might of the Department of Justice behind him, he continues to do nothing. He refuses to take them out in cuffs. The most powerful prosecutor in the world, the man who holds the scales of justice in his hands, hides behind the coattails of a Rod Rosenstein, a man we've never even heard of, who is in fact behind all of Jeff Sessions' decision, who is in fact running our Department of Justice. The man who has the honor to carry the prefix United States Attorney General before his name, Jeff Sessions, is indeed the most dangerous man in America.
You had to hear it. You had to hear it. You absolutely had to hear it. And I'm sorry, Jesse Jane Duff. I'm so sorry. I wanted to believe that this was going to happen. I wanted to believe that Jeff Sessions was going to make this happen. The problem now with Jeff Sessions and what is going on now, the problem is that there's too many things out there that you aren't grabbing any of them. Not one of them. And check this out.
That we know of.
Right. Check this out. Devin Nunes asking for the scope. Bob Mueller, what is the scope? What was the outline? Where was his direction? What was he supposed to do? Where is the scope? And what is the scope? Mm-hmm. Devin Nunes has not received that from Jeff Sessions. But guess who did receive a copy of the scope?
Who?
Remember that judge that lambasted?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently he got a copy of the scope.
Oh, he did get it. Because I remember he was asking for it and he wasn't getting it.
How does he get it? But Devin Nunes, who literally the FBI answers to Congress. They answer to, or not the FBI.
He's under FBI's under the executive branch.
I'm thinking.
Special counsel.
Special counsel.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
They absolutely have to get back, and they're stonewalling all of it. They're stopping all of it.
They have to. because the unredacted versions of what's going on will expose them.
Do you think it'll expose Jeff Sessions? Or is he just trying to stay alive?
Wow, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I don't know what he's doing.
I had always believed that Jeff Sessions was as right as rain. The true blue Boy Scout, the guy that you could trust hanging out with your friends and your family, watching your kids and the grandkids. That's who Jeff Sessions, that's who I always believed he was.
I don't know. It just goes to show that at the end of the day, everybody's compromised.
Oh, yeah. Jason Shevitz is on Fox News now hosting shows.
Is he compromised?
He didn't do nothing when he was in there. Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, Jeff Sessions, Jason Shevitz.
Trey Gowdy is so far gone.
Trey, you and Jason, Benghazi, IRS scandal.
It's just all talk.
Tarmac meeting. And speaking about that, we don't hold your breath. But I was told by I'll think of it in a minute. Yeah, okay. No, there's some information coming out. That Tarmac meeting with Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton. There's 16 pages and multiple text messages that will be turned over by the end of this month. That will be interesting.
Okay.
Well, we all know that it's out there. We know nothing here is shocking. Nothing here is new. It's just that the justice is beginning to say, okay, man, I guess we got to do something.
They have to. I mean, the people are not going to take this much longer. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to bleed the clock out. Just burn the clock out. Burn it out. Burn it out. I could see the finish line. We're up by 1 point and we got the ball. Just keep kneeling. Keep kneeling.
I don't think there's that much time. I think there's more time on the clock than they believe.
Well, there's only 4 years in a presidential term. So as long as they keep muddying the water, making things look more complicated than they are, tricking the president into thinking that he doesn't have control over things that he does, which is exactly what they're doing, and they feel like they could just ride this out, ride the clock out, and they're doing prevent defense, do it as much as possible, just totally confuse the hell out of everybody, gaslight the hell out of everybody, and at some point in the future, everything will just be lost to the ether. That's what they're hoping, because there is no alternative at this point.
No,
they have to ride the clock out, and that's what they're doing right now. And that's why I'm like, hey, we stormed the beaches of Normandy. We completely ended World War II. Dropped 2 nuclear bombs. It all happened in 15 months. So what are you guys doing? That's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Right. Apparently not much. So Christina Wong at Breitbart.com, Breitbart News, wrote an article. Just real quick, here's her article. It says, but the story revealed that the leakers to the New York Times confirm FBI ran spy operation.
Right.
So I was like, what? The New York Times wrote an article about spy operation? Well, this is interesting. They actually did, they have been caught with real news at times. But anyway, so I thought it was interesting, so I started reading it, and it says, against Trump campaign, Breitbart story, but the story revealed that the FBI, which is supposed to be an apolitical agency, was spying on the Trump campaign through phone records and with at least one human asset who interacted with the campaign advisor, Carter Page, and George
That's called a spy.
Papadopoulos.
That's a spy.
Right.
So why is the New York Times saying the FBI used an informant to investigate Russia ties to campaign, not a spy, as Trump claims?
Because I think the New York Times is throwing cover.
Oh, yeah. You think?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm giving benefit
Why don't you
of the doubt.
just tell the audience that's what's happening? Because that is what's happening.
They're throwing cover.
Period.
They're throwing cover, and Breitbart News picked up in the article, and they're writing about it, which is awesome. You need to stick to the real news that's out there. So, quote, the FBI obtained phone records and other documents using national security letters, a secret type of subpoena, officials said. And at least one government informant met several times with Page and Papadopoulos. The Times
Why they keep
reported
calling him an informant,
citing the current and formal officials. So New York Times is saying that this is all legit. This is secret subpoenas, and this is how this is how this goes, man. Come on, Carrie.
So if you hire somebody that's not an FBI agent to go and be a human asset, or maybe you don't pay him, what do? Say, hey, man, we could really use your help, buddy. We could really use your help.
We're at the end of a rope.
Well, this would have been early on, even before he became president.
You know, we're not supposed to do this, and this, but if you could help us.
If you could kind of be that middleman.
Dude, I'm saying.
Because that would kind of insulate us from being able to admit it that we're using a spy. Right. I mean, you would be the spy, but because you're not an actual employee of the agency.
You're just an informant.
We can call you an informant. We'd have to call you a spy if we paid you. And so that's why we're not asking, if you don't want to do it, it's fine.
And just like we did with the professor, with James Comey's friend, the professor, just like he had status, he had FBI status.
Yeah, you could go around and tell people.
Yeah. Yeah, that you're FBI. I mean, you're not getting paid, but, it's all good.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go ask. I'm sorry I don't have this information for you guys right now, but I'm going to ask around and get to you guys through the week, through Twitter, whether or not this guy was a paid employee. Because you can't say he was an informant if he's an actual FBI agent.
Right.
Or an employee or even a paid contractor. If I hired Brian to go spy on my wife, let's say, or inform me on what's going on with my wife, he's spying on her.
Right.
Period.
Right.
The only way I could call Brian an informant is if
I was willing to just go ahead and do it on my own.
Right.
And I just give him information back.
And even then, I couldn't really direct him.
Right.
Because then he's a volunteer spy.
Right.
I mean, seriously. That's the difference between...
Brian, I've been having problems. An
informant.
And I say, you know what? Say no more. Say no more. Just say no more. And then a day later, I come back and say, man, you're not going to believe what I found out.
That would be an informant. So the difference between an informant and a spy would be, like, a spy would be somebody who is taking direction from the agency.
Right.
Whether they're paid or not. If they're taking direction from the agency and they're asking for specific, can you find out this, this, and this? Can you go here and do this, this, and this? And then that person does it, they're a spy.
Right.
But an informant would be if I interviewed Brian because I knew that he was at a place where my wife was. And I was like, Brian, I know you were at this party and my wife was there and I have some suspicions. So I just want to ask you a couple questions. Did you see who she was with? And Brian were to tell me, that's an informant.
Right.
By the way, if my wife's listening, this is all hypothetical.
We're making it. This is just jokes. This is jokes.
Funny. So anyway, we're just using an example.
It's an example. That's all. Now, if I said, Carrie, I got $100.
Yeah.
Whatever gas money you need, whatever time you spend, above all that, just let me know. I need you to trail my wife and see where she's going tonight.
That sounds like a spy to me. That's not an informant.
Yeah.
That's not an informant.
Yeah, it'd be like paying what would they call that? A detective.
A PI.
PI. Magnum PI.
Right.
Yeah.
But that would be
private eye.
That's pretty much spying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much spying. But like if I were to volunteer information that I found when I happened upon your wife at a party, then I'm just informing. I'm an informant.
Right. Okay, so here's how the article goes. The article goes, the revelation of at least one government informant, quote, end quote, appears to confirm a Washington Compost story last week, which leakers revealed that the FBI had a top secret intel source.
Okay.
A U.S. citizen who likely lived overseas who had spied on members of the Trump campaign for the FBI. The Post report came out as House Intel Committee Devin Nunes was fighting the JOD for access to information on said source. According to the Wall Street Journal's Kimberly Strassel, the source meant the quote, the FBI secretly had a person on the payroll who used his or her non-FBI credentials to interact with some capacity with the Trump campaign.
What do you mean non-FBI? What does non-FBI credentials mean?
Hold on. I'm a paid FBI and I'm paid on a payroll, but I'm going to do this like moonlighting.
Hold on a second.
I'm on moonlight and I'm not getting paid right now.
No. Brian, is there a badge that says I am not in the FBI?
I can make
That's what non-FBI credentials is.
I can make you one.
Dude, somebody meme that.
Somebody get me going. I need
Vesey, if you're listening,
yes,
you need to make a badge that
FBI
says
badge.
non-FBI badge.
Right, but
this badge is to prove that I have no credentials with the FBI.
Right. I want to. What does the FBI credential badge look like? And then take that and make it a non-FBI credential.
Well,
badge.
it has to say on it that I am. This is to prove that I am not with the FBI.
No.
That's what that's saying.
No, I know.
This is the most convoluted article. What the heck?
So here's the whole. Well, here's
gosh.
the whole thing that she's writing about, and then she references.
He used his or her non-FBI credentials to interact with some capacity with the Trump campaign. The only way you have non-FBI credentials is if you have remained secret, which is pretty much most FBI agents, right?
Right.
Where you don't go around telling everybody, I work at the FBI. You know, I mean, a lot of people just don't even say that.
Hey, Karen, do you work at the FBI?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Well, I am a non-FBI credential holder. See, look at my card.
Oh, wow. So you really aren't connected to the FBI.
Fact.
Wow.
Fact.
Can I get myself one of those?
Yeah.
By the way,
let me Xerox that for you.
The FBI may make a card like that for their FBI agents in order to have non-FBI credentials. This is so stupid.
So that's the Washington. That's the Washington. Breitbart News is reporting on New York Slime and Washington Compost trying to shade cover.
So that's Kimberly Strassel said that.
Well, yeah.
When we come up with the badge, it could be a badge or it could be an ID that says non-FBI. We need to send that to her. We need to send it to, because that is the most convoluted.
But Kimberly Strassel writes for Wall Street Journal, and she did a great job on this.
Conservative? What? But what are non-FBI? Maybe she's sourcing somebody else. Whoever she sourced that said, "Oh yeah, we were able to gain access because our FBI spy has non-FBI credentials."
You know what? This may be inside talk, and we may be looking goofy, like we don't know what is.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Maybe there's. I don't know.
How do you have non-FBI credentials? Oh my gosh, that's like saying.
How are you not looking this up?
That I'm using my credentials as not being a welder to get in on. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. I am totally dumbfounded by that language. I think logically.
You start typing into Google.
Somebody already do it.
Images for non-FBI credentials.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Somebody already did it?
Yeah.
Well, click one up. I want to see what it looks like. One of them has. FBI. No, that's. What? But these are FBI credentials. Where's non-FBI credentials?
I don't know.
There are no non-FBI credentials. Images for non-FBI credentials. They're all FBI credentials. Oh, we need one. We need a non-FBI credential. So Brian's kind of looking through, and his screen is filled with pictures that are of FBI credentials, not FBI non-FBI credentials. So Google failed us.
Yeah.
Google failed. Oh wow. Unbelievable. Oh. So Kimberly Strassel has to. So you're saying she's a conservative? She's a good guy.
Yeah.
Whoops. Well, I don't know what she's talking about then. That just sounds convoluted.
Okay, so she's on with. I told you, Jason Shavitz. Jason Shavitz.
I told you. That's Matt Gaetz. It's pronounced Gates, by the way.
Him?
Isn't that Gates?
No, that's Jason Shavitz.
Oh, Shavitz. Yeah. Oh, what was I thinking? I'm looking at the bottom. Oh, up next.
Oh,
Matt Gaetz. Okay.
So Jason Shavitz is on the Fox News taking over for Hannity at times. I guess his duties whatever. Anyways, so he's on with Strassel, and this is the just 2 minutes, real quick, just an interview with Strassel and the article that she wrote about non-FBI credentials.
Well, look, up until last week, all we knew was that House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes had initiated a new line of inquiry and was demanding new documents from the Department of Justice. But then, in their desire to make Chairman Nunes look bad and justify why they were not giving those documents, someone in the government leaked a lot of details about what was happening. It turns out he's asking about a top-secret government source who has worked for the FBI and the CIA, who is a U.S. citizen, would seem to have some sort of entanglement with foreign intelligence agencies, or maybe is based overseas. And based on all those breadcrumbs and some reporting, I've got a pretty good sense of who it is, and it does look as though, indeed, there was an FBI attempt, a successful one, to basically go out and spy with a human asset on the Trump campaign.
She used the word spy.
Okay, so what she's saying, she's wrapping this all up. What she's saying is that because Devin Nunes was asking our boy Sessions to give up the info, this is dangerous, folks. They leaked that there was a spy on purpose to say you can't have this because this is why.
Oh, because it's a human asset. We can't be giving out that kind of information. It could put their life in jeopardy, their family in jeopardy.
But and so then the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost spin it to say, oh, Trump is leaking. Trump's leaked. Trump's campaigns. This next guy that you had me download those clips from Deface the Nation, this is exactly where he went. They're completely lying about it, but this inside deep state leaks this information to make Trump look bad in this. But we're just trying to get to what's real. And
just trying to find out the truth.
Yeah, we're just trying to find out the truth. And all the while, you got some bad things going on.
Now, what about the timing, right? The timing about all of this is critical. Do we understand the timing, and what are the implications for that?
Okay, her answer isn't good enough for me. She doesn't quite know about the timing. Trump tweeted out about the timing, and they're talking about this timing of this informant being way before Papadopoulos, way before Russian collusion, way early, super early on. So that's what I'm seeing. But here's her answer.
Yeah, it's so important because remember, the FBI has been doggedly sticking with this story, that what initiated this counterintelligence probe was a tip that they got in July about this supposed drunken conversation of a junior campaign aide named George Papadopoulos. Well, if for any reason we find out that this person, this asset of theirs, was in fact surveilling or spying on the Trump campaign prior to that time, then they've got an issue, right? Because that's no longer their origin story.
Right.
And they must have had something else that they were basing this on, whether it be the dossier or some other information that they were using as a reason to go out and surveil the Trump campaign. You know, we have a great piece in the Journal today by a former FBI officer just talking, and his job was in fact to fulfill congressional requests, talking about how obnoxious and outrageous it is that the Department of Justice is not complying with civil requests, much less subpoenas from Congress. And the fact, by the way, that they didn't give this information over to Chairman Nunes all the way last year when he said he was investigating the FBI's conduct is really pretty striking.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, think about that, folks.
Hold him in contempt. It's as simple as that. And if that means holding Sessions in contempt, you got to hold him in contempt.
We're talking a year ago he asked for this information.
What did I say? They're running out the clock. That's what they're trying to do. And you know what? It's people like you out there. I'm calling you all out. I'm telling you that are like, oh, justice takes time. You're running interference for them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I hate to throw you guys under the bus like that. Stop running interference. Took 15 months to conquer Europe.
Right.
And drop 2 bombs and develop it from nothing. Nothing. We had nothing. We didn't even have the technology. 15 months we're splitting atoms, all right? So, yeah. So I actually liked her answer. So they're saying that she's saying that if they find out that the spy was there before the Papadopoulos debacle, then that means that that's not the origin of the spy to begin with.
Right.
It has to be something else.
Right. Now I'm saying that it will be confirmed that the spying was way before Papadopoulos.
Oh, okay. So
that's what I'm saying.
So in a way, like her answer was adequate, which is that we're going to find out that the origin story of Papadopoulos is not. But she pointed out, is it the dossier? Well, everybody, and I even tweeted it out today, all journalists were shopped the dossier before BuzzFeed finally was ordered by CNN, who was on orders by the DNC, or some people say that that CNN runs the DNC. It's possible.
Either way, yeah.
But one way or another, orders from on high were dropped that the dossier must now be used. It must become an integral part of this hoax, this FBI or the Russiagate hoax.
Right.
And so that's why BuzzFeed initially released it, and then it was covered by CNN. I tweeted out today, and you can go check it out. I retweeted with a quote, a tweet that was tweeted out by a journalist back in January of 2017 that said, we were all shopped this dossier.
Right.
Nobody ran with it because everybody knew it was fake. Everybody, every journalist who has any credentials whatsoever, any kind of power, any kind of big outlets, news outlets or whatever, they were all shopped the dossier. First by the Republican Party, and then it was shopped by to the Democrat Party. Nobody ran with it because they were like, whoa, we have journalistic integrity here.
And don't forget, they wrapped up McCain into this thing and gave McCain the dossier, and McCain went to Comey and gave Comey the dossier, but didn't let McCain know he already knew about it. To actually let McCain feel like he was in.
Okay, all right, and that doesn't surprise me at all in hindsight. And so the point is that everybody knew the dossier was fake. So for her to reference the dossier as a possibility for the origin of all of the spying on the Trump campaign is going to be extremely problematic for the deep state because everybody knew it was fake. So there's the possibility of dossier. We know George Papadopoulos. You're telling me that it was before Papadopoulos.
I'm saying that's what's going to come out. It's going to come out before Papadopoulos. And everybody, just real quick, Papadopoulos, low-level guy in the campaign.
He's like 24.
He was at a bar in the UK one night drinking, and a diplomat from Australia that lives in the UK, he's a diplomat for Australia, in the UK, sat down at the table drinking with Papadopoulos, and Papadopoulos said, hey, we got all kinds of dirt on the Clintons. The Russians gave us all kinds of dirt, and they hacked and stuff. And the Australian agent said, hey, here, have another scotch. Have a double. Have a three-finger scotch. Here you go, my friend.
A three-finger scotch.
3 fingers, and that's how you fill it up.
But what if it's a narrow shot glass? Have you seen the narrow one?
No, you use a rocks glass.
Oh. Use a bucket.
You use a bucket.
3 fingers. Oh, my God.
So half the bottle. Papadopoulos just spilling his guts. Who knows? Who knows what happened in this meeting? But the diplomat went to the DNC and said, hey, guess what the little birdie told me? Guess what I heard? And anyways, the Australian diplomat, cool with the DNC, cool with the Clintons. It's just all of this is dirty. Papadopoulos knows the Clintons, in with the Clintons. I don't think they really need a spy when in the sense, Papadopoulos was a spy in hindsight, because you know hindsight's 50-50. And then you got Carter Page. Carter Page, who technically, when you look at it on the face, he was a spy in a sense that...
Well, informant. Probably informant.
Unpaid dude looking for stuff.
Right.
And all he was to have to do on his last day that he was fired, early on in the campaign, all he had to do was email everybody in the address book, which would allow the FBI to touch everybody in the entire Trump campaign. You want to talk about spies? They're already there. This other informant, just more informants.
Right. I mean, there's like hundreds of informants, but when the spy thing, I mean, I don't know why they're trying to. Well, I know why they're trying to change the narrative from spy to informant, because once you start talking about the deep state sending a human asset to spy on the Trump campaign, to an opposition. Look, guys, Obama, the Democrat, was the president at the time.
Right.
So his entire administration was Democrat or Democrat allies. And for them to spy on the opposition party, we don't hear anything about any spying on Hillary's campaign. I wonder why that is.
No, and that's the thing, folks.
She was the one breaking the law.
I know this happens in dictatorships in third world countries. This happens in Venezuela. This happened in Germany in 1930.
The 30s.
33?
The 30s.
The 30s, early 30s. This is what happened. This doesn't happen in America. This is America.
It's not supposed to. We're in full-on banana public mode right now.
Oh yeah,
full on.
The coup is in the last throes. We are in the last. I want to think that we're in the last throes of the coup.
There was a caller on one of the talk shows early in the week. I can't remember which show it was, that said, "You know what this is? Everybody talks about, oh, this is a coup. This is a coup. No, this is a failed coup."
Yes.
And
yes.
You know, if you don't cut the head of the snake off immediately, the coup's not going to work. And it has failed. And now it's CYA time. All of this.
Total CYA.
The coup's not going to happen. There's not going to be an impeachment.
Not now. No.
There's not going to be Donald Trump quitting. I cannot believe that they thought this was a possibility. I am dumbfounded at the complete...
No, here's why. I got this guy called my Gen Xer. This guy, Gen Xer, who's complete.
Don't tell me he's like
psycho.
Trump's gonna quit. He's gonna rage quit
this week.
He's gonna rage quit
this week. He said Trump has already signed the documents that he's gonna resign.
By the way,
he swears. He says, "I swear to you, the information I'm getting, Trump is resigning. He's already he's filed the documents. He's walking away, Brian."
So Trump has come out with several really angry tweets today.
Yeah, did you look at your?
Oh, okay. Well,
look
the
at
liberals are using that as evidence.
Wherever it says
okay.
TT.
Okay, so he's getting really angry. The liberals, are using this as evidence. Like he's about to rage quit. He's about to take his presidency and throw it down on the ground, stomp on it, and stomp out of the White House.
Okay, so you're asking why did they think that this was going to work?
Yeah,
these are the same idiots that are telling me that Trump is going to rage quit.
Wait, you didn't call your millennial an idiot, did you?
No, it's a Gen Xer.
Oh, Gen Xer.
Millennial laughs at him.
Oh, Gen X. Gen X. He's an idiot.
Yes.
Well, if he is,
no, because because I've told him many times, listen to the show. I don't listen to that garbage.
Well, maybe if you tell him we talked about him, he'll listen in. I'm shocked. Now, some people say, well, you got to look at the Nixon administration. Everybody talks about how he got impeached, but he never got impeached. People think he got impeached. No, he didn't get impeached. You know why? Because he quit when he was told that impeachment can't be stopped and that it's inevitable, it's definitely going to happen, and then he quit. So they were thinking that there's a combination of frustrating the hell out of Trump, making it so that the job of his presidency is so incredibly frustrating that he rage quits, or they get to a point where Congress can go to him like they did Nixon and say, Mr. President, we can't stop the votes now. We don't have the votes. You're going to be impeached. That's it. It's over.
But the problem is his poll ratings are going up.
Well, hold on, though. If they have a blue wave, and that's a pipe dream, but let's just say that's a pipe dream, but let's just say there's a blue wave.
Democrats take the House.
Not only they take the House, but let's say there's a massive blue wave, and let's say they have 55% of the House, or maybe close to 60%. Just some huge. Now all they need is just several Republicans. And they got them. You got their McCains, they got their Gramnesties, they got McConnell, and they got Susan Collins. All these people that should have been kicked out of the Republican Party many, many years ago. But the Republicans are a bunch of cucks that will not do this and that will allow actual, real progressive Democrats to have an R next to their name.
Right.
So moronic. But anyway.
Did you say Anna Navarro? People like her.
She's not even. She's a full-blown commie. And
she
they giving her an R?
She was a Republican, and now she's a CNN contributor.
They're saying Mueller. They're saying Comey. All these people are R's, and I'm like,
no, man.
Here's the problem with the Republican Party is that they're allowing these people to continue to go around saying that they're Republicans. The Republican Party should be able to come out and say, we renounce Comey. He is not one of us. Mueller, not one of us.
No.
McCain, absolutely not one of us. They need to do that. I've been told by members of the party that they will not do that because that's not democracy, Kerry. That's just not democracy. It's the Republican Party. This is not government.
It's got nothing to do with the government.
Anyway.
It's who you support or don't. So you're telling me that when John McCain quits and he's done, he's retired, and he goes and he's starting to hang out with Castro's brother.
Yeah, Raul.
Raul, and try to attempt to, I don't know, bring communism to America. You're still not going to renounce him?
No. They'll say, well, you know what? This is exactly what they'll tell me. They'll say, well, Kerry, he's got his own constituency. And presumably they're Republican, even though, Democrats can vote for them, too.
Yes,
Democrats can vote for Republicans.
And they love that John McCain.
And Republicans can vote for Democrats. And I don't think people that are, party voters are probably like, yeah, right. But actually, it's probably more common than you think.
Right.
My point is they will tell me, Kerry, he's got an R next to his name. He's saying he's the Republican nominee. He was nominated through a primary process. He may have been the only one on the ballot.
Right.
But I'm just telling you, Kerry, that it's up to the voters to oust him. And one last thing, real quick, let me interrupt you, but the last thing they'll say is, well, Kerry, if the Republican Party in the state of Arizona doesn't want McCain, they'll put forth somebody for the Republican Party against him and primary him, and that'll work. And if not, then it's not for us to come out. It's up for the voters, Kerry. It's up for the voters. The thing that they're missing is that Democrats can vote for him. Why is the Republican Party allowing somebody to have an R next to their name that Democrats put into power?
Well, not only that, but you got to understand though that the Democrat Party will say to John McCain, keep on doing what you're doing, buddy, and you'll go uncontested this year.
Meanwhile, the Republicans are like, well, Kerry,
he's a shoo-in. He's going to win it, Kerry.
It's not for us to kick him out. It's up for the voters.
Right, and we need to keep the seat.
Yeah,
Hold the seat.
By their logic, Brian could run on a platform that is full-on, point-by-point, Democrat, progressive, communist, all the way up and down. That's his entire platform. Say that he's a Republican, go out there with an R next to his name, and here's the kicker. He could do this after he gets elected. He could come out with a conservative platform, run, win, change it all to communism.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. The next primary comes along, he's the incumbent. He's the incumbent Republican with a full-on communist platform. And the Republican Party will be like, well he's the incumbent.
He's got constituents.
Maybe we won't run somebody against him in a primary. We're not going to primary him. Or even if they do, he's not going to get any traction because the incumbent has all the popularity. And then that's it. It's just the whole thing is totally convoluted. What they should do is have the party, if not maybe a third party, and I know third parties never work, but at some point a party is going to fail unless you can say, if you're not running on this platform, you're not allowed to have our name.
Right.
And by the way, kicking John McCain, and we're just using him as an example, but there's a lot more besides him. Kicking John McCain out of the party does not take his elected position away from him. All it does is say, you are not allowed to have an R next to your name. That's it.
Well, just like Timothy Schwartz out there in Arizona brought up censure charges on John McCain.
Right.
Pushed forward
and it
censure.
Still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Because he still gets to have an R next to his name.
Right.
And in a perfect world, in Kerrytopia, if you will, if you're not adhering to Republican principles, you shouldn't be allowed to run with an R next to your name. And here's the kicker. Let's use Susan Collins as an example. Republicans don't have a candidate that is running on their behalf for their values. It's Democrat and Democrat light, and some people are saying, yeah, we'll want to run a Republican. Because Susan Collins gets to keep her R.
Right.
So when she is a shoo-in for the nominee for the Republican Party, no other Republicans can run until she retires. But if the Republican Party were to say, Susan, you ain't going to have our R next to her. She's forced to have an I next to her.
You're telling me the Republican Party has to grow a pair.
Yeah, they need to stop being cucks. Yeah, they need to stop being cucks. Yeah. All right, so anyway. By the way, why is Kasich still a Republican? Anyway.
He even said he should have been a Democrat.
Yeah, and they're still letting him have the R. How stupid is the Republican Party? All right, anyway.
So Senator Mark Warner
I digress.
On Deface the Nation this morning.
Yes, it was this morning.
Deface the Nation this morning. Had a couple things to say about Donald Trump and Russia and some collusion that's going on.
Get ready to stop it when I say stop, because I have a couple things to say about it. It's real simple stuff. It's no groundbreaking. It's just little lessons in civics.
The president is tweeting this morning about a New York Times report that he is trying to discredit, saying that foreign governments other than Russia offered to provide help during the campaign, specifically with social media manipulation. Is this something that the Senate Intelligence Committee is looking into or will look into?
First off,
the premise.
The premise is off base that Donald Trump is lying about saying that this New York Times are these lies. Don't know why the president would say that.
I get that they're trying to, but anyway.
We're going to look into all of these claims, counterclaims. The thing that I find amazing is that somehow the president and his allies...
To you, these reports are credible.
There are credible components of the New York Times
Hold on a
report.
second. I just now noticed something. This is the first time I noticed. She had to interrupt him to substantiate her premise. Yep. Like, hey, I threw something out there that was a lie, and I get that you agree with them by default, but I need you to say that these reports are credible because there's people at home that know that we're liars.
Right.
So I need a little bit of backup for my premise. I didn't even realize that until you're not just playing it. But so she substantiated he substantiated the false claims. She made him do that. Now let's see what his answer is.
Some of this information is new to us, but we're going to continue our investigation. But what is remarkable to me is that the president somehow seems not to understand that when a foreign nation tries to interfere in our elections, that's wrong. That's illegal.
Oh, did you hear that? That's wrong. That's illegal. Guys. You guys already know this, but I want to make sure that you recognize when complete falsehoods come out of our elected officials' mouths, to call them out immediately, catch them. You got to catch them.
This was you got to catch this. Yeah.
He said foreign entities.
What President Trump needs to understand.
What President Trump needs to understand, and he also means everybody listening. Everybody listening needs to understand that when foreign entities interfere with our election, that's wrong and that's illegal. Okay, here's our civics lesson for the day. It's not illegal. There is no law that says that that it is illegal for a foreign. The laws are for American citizens. All right, we may not be allowed to do certain things, or we may be bound by law to either do or not do certain things,
or like give up to $10,000, or I could personally live in another country and run ads on social media in America for whoever I want. There's no law against that.
Right. The bottom line is that laws don't apply to non-citizens outside of our border. Period. Right. If Russia wants to run ads on Facebook, that's up to Facebook, and maybe even the government can talk to Facebook and say, hey, can you not let these people run these ads? And if Facebook wants to comply, they could even come out with laws prohibiting Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook to run certain ads from certain entities. But there is no law against Russia from doing anything.
No.
They can't enforce it. How do they enforce it? It's just kind of like with Mueller saying, indicting all these Russian companies.
Oh, he got them indicted, Kerry.
Yeah, well, they're going to come and say, you know what? It's a bunch of BS.
If they could come here.
And
Some
they
of them
have.
don't exist.
Well, some of them don't exist, but one of them has said, this is BS, and is now, that's a whole nother story. That's developing. But yeah, so him saying this, it's illegal. It's illegal. It may be illegal for Trump to do certain things, or any citizen who's running for office or not running for office to do certain things. But for him to say that it's illegal for Russia, in Russia, we don't have jurisdiction over anything that a Russian entity in Russia does or doesn't do.
Or the interwebs. We don't have any jurisdiction over the interwebs of somebody in another country posting things on the internet.
Right.
In another country.
Like I said before, he can work with Facebook, since Facebook's an American company with an American CEO, to curb certain things through their site.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard that that's even happened.
No.
Mark Zuckerberg may have done it on his own. But anyways.
The validity of the two Arab nations potentially intervening, time will tell how much truth there is there.
Okay, so hold on. Hold on.
What?
You know, time will tell if there's any truth to me sticking to a diet and losing weight. Time will tell. Oh, Brian, I didn't know you were on a diet.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
One day. I'm going to let the clock roll out before. One day you're going to forget. One day you're going to forget that I said I was on a diet. And hopefully you do. That way I don't have to actually lose weight. But, time will tell.
Time will tell.
But in regards, for example, to Russia, we had just this week our intelligence community, bipartisan, came out and reaffirmed the findings of the intelligence community's overall assessment. Russia massively intervened in our elections, and they did so to help Trump and hurt Clinton. Now,
didn't we already establish that did not happen? It's already been reported and established and confirmed that Russia may have been sowing chaos because they were helping and hurting either side at any time.
Kerry, it came out
several times simultaneously.
Kerry, it came out this week, non-bipartisan.
Non-bipartisan?
Anti-Chinese Defamation League.
Non-bipartisan.
Non-bipartisan.
Okay.
It was bipartisan.
It was tripartisan.
This week, bipartisan came out with a tripartisan article. They confirmed what the findings were. It was massive on Russia's part. Massive.
Okay.
Non-bipartisan.
All of the tweeting the president does. All of the tweeting the president does. Well, we do know this. We've seen repeated actions by at least Donald Trump Jr. and others of being interested in receiving dirt on Clinton, whether it was the famous Trump Tower meeting, whether it was the outreach to Mr. Papadopoulos. Now we're seeing a potential pattern with other nations reaching out to try to interfere. The president, who continues to be obsessed with this, what part of the basic tenets of our democracy is that you don't have foreign powers intervene, does he not understand?
Okay, so he circles back around, but check this out. He threw out there two narratives that we know were set up by them, the Democrats.
Right.
Papadopoulos was set up to do what he did.
It was it was textbook entrapment, because you can't really say, I should probably define entrapment, because some people threw that out there and now people aren't even saying entrapment anymore. Entrapment is when a law enforcement official of any kind coerces somebody who would not have otherwise broken the law to break the law. So, for instance,
Kerry, I've got a shotgun in the back of my truck. Got a couple of them.
Yeah.
I know you need some money. Here's an envelope full of money. All I need you to do, and I put a mark on where I want you to cut the barrels.
Oh, yeah, this is a real scenario that Brian's referring to. This actually happened.
Okay, this white piece of tape.
I know you're hard up for money.
I know you're desperate. You want to feed your children and your wife.
You're starving. Your kids are looking a little malnourished.
Right, you ain't got no running water in that piece of
garbage. And I know you have a hacksaw at home.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's that in my trunk too.
Wow.
Just cut the barrels below the white tape. Must be below.
Must be.
You keep all the money.
That actually happened. That actually happened. And of course, below the white tape or below the white line or whatever was below or shorter than the minimum amount of barrel you're legally allowed to have on a sawed-off shotgun. There has to be a certain amount of length, and he went below that, and then they proceeded to prosecute.
Whether he didn't know that it was ATF, FBI.
Right, he just wanted to do a job for money, and he was offered it, and he took it. There's a lot of
Ruby Ridge.
Yeah,
Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, that actually was the start of Ruby Ridge. But anyway, so entrapment.
Yeah.
Entrapment is when somebody who otherwise would not have broken the law are enticed, encouraged, or somehow coerced or whatever by a law enforcement person to break the law. And then when they do, you then charge them with the crime.
They did this, I think this was in the 90s. There was a story in the 90s where these cops, one cop would go down the highway or the freeway, breaking the speed limit by 20. You remember this?
Yeah, this is a landmark case, I believe.
Okay, like the speed limit back then was 55, and the cop would go down the freeway at 70
in a normal car.
Right.
Okay.
And so somebody would follow him because just start following him. Well, he's out in front. He'll get caught before I do. So just follow him. And then another cop would come up behind him
and bust him. Right.
And it's clear entrapment.
Well, and the reason some people will say, well, yeah, but you don't have to follow him. Well, it depends on how congested it is. I know when I'm on I-75 during rush hour, before it gets jammed up and everybody is going zero,
right?
People tend to try to go 75, and it's a 55-mile-an-hour area. And I'm telling you right now, it's so congested during rush hour before it slows down and everybody's going 70 that it's actually dangerous to go less than 70. Seriously, everybody. Right. So what they call that is moving with the flow of traffic. That's actually the safest way to drive. If everybody is going 15 miles over the speed limit, it's actually safer to go right along the same speed. So for a cop to pace at 70 miles an hour,
initiate a pace. Yeah.
It encourages everybody else to just stay. Sometimes you're not even looking at the speedometer and you're just like, well, as long as I'm within distance of that guy, I'll just follow him. And you're not even looking at the speedometer. Right. Meanwhile, a guy's going faster and faster and faster, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, we're going 85 miles an hour, whatever. And then boom, you're busted by a cop who.
And then you find out the guy in front of you was working in tangent with the cop.
Right. So now let's jump back to our story here. George Papadopoulos was, and everybody, all these people they used a honeypot on Manafort.
And he mentioned the Trump Tower, and Don Jr. wanted dirt.
And here's the thing.
But here's the, hold on. They wanted dirt. No. The DNC, the Democrat Party, got a hold of the
Russian
honeypot that was forbidden. She was not allowed to come to America. She was forbidden by law.
She was getting a special access to America.
She was not allowed to go to the UK, forbidden by law. She was revoked privileges for that.
Okay.
Preet Bharara, an appointed individual by Barack Hussein Obama, went ahead and signed off on a special one-trip ticket to the Trump Tower for her. Go in and get out. Come on, man.
This is textbook entrapment. So that meeting was entrapment. And also, I'm not 100% sure if a law was even broken. I think they were trying to get him to break a law by offering him something that was illegal. And when he realized, and by the way, she offered information, which I don't think is even illegal.
You're doing Oppo research.
If somebody says, I have information, doesn't matter where they're from in the world.
Kerry, you're not allowed to read that document. I'm a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
I can read it.
And I can tell you what's in it.
I'll tell you what's in it, Kerry.
Because I'm a journalist.
I'm a journalist. You're not allowed. CNN said that. Literally said that. Was that Jake Tapper? Might have been fake Jake Tapper.
Did you hear? WEBN is a radio station.
Here. Yeah, kind of gross, too. I don't like their stuff, man. The music's fine.
Yeah, you got this classic rock.
It's the gross stuff that they do in between the songs.
Well, I was listening to him one time, and one of the DJs was talking about how they can't get busted at work viewing pornography
because it's part of the job.
Because they say, "Oh, we're doing journalism. We're checking out this thing."
I know who you're talking about. That's why I refuse to listen to that show.
Because think about it.
They're disgusting.
If you go to work and you were to just start looking at pornography on your work computer, you're pretty much insta-fired.
Right,
Insta-fired.
right.
But they are okay. That's okay for them because they're doing journalism.
Okay, so digressing back.
Okay, so my point is...
opposition research.
Yeah.
All information about your opponent is just information.
Well, you're allowed to receive information. The part where it becomes illegal is if they only give it to you if you offer a promise or offer them money or whatever to a foreign entity.
Just stick to WikiLeaks. They put it out there for nothing.
Yeah. So, well, the point is that they set this whole thing up in order to try to get them to offer something in return. That never happened. This is why nobody's getting busted for anything, any kind of Russian collusion. Nothing was ever offered up in return for anything.
No, nothing.
So, any kind of help. That's what it boils down to. You can't have Russia or the UK help your campaign in exchange for favors if you win and become in power of the United States through the presidency, presidential election, winning it, whatever. And that's what they were trying to entrap them on, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it.
So more of Deface the Nation. That's why this show is called Deface the Nation. There's a reason for that.
They're defacing it.
This Democrat,
Virginia senator,
right, along with the host, are attempting to propagandize and spew fake, false narrative.
And I don't think he's stupid. I think he's just trying to misinform the nation.
Well, he was told to do a job.
I think he's trying to deface the nation.
Yeah, he's trying to do his job. So here's, we just told you about the spy. We talked all about that. We talked about the collusion, talked about everything. And here's the Democrats' take on that.
I want to ask you also about something the president is publicly complaining about. He has said...
You just had to stop. You just want to say something. I think that speaks for itself. He's publicly complaining. He was, wasn't he?
I'm going to rewind to 5 seconds. Here we go.
All right. I want to ask you also about something the president is publicly complaining about. He has said again yesterday that the FBI or the Department of Justice has, in his words, been infiltrating his campaign for political reasons. And he called for those agencies to hand over documents to Congress. To your knowledge, has there been any such action by those agencies?
She's setting the question up. She did a good softball. She set it up. He got this question before the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was told this is what you're going to have to answer with.
Mm-hmm.
Want you to get in lockstep.
Did you say they gave him the answer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
In lockstep. Want you to do what you're supposed to do, and you'll continue to get campaign financing.
Ah, of course.
I have no knowledge of such actions. I do know this, that when the president or his allies in the House start going out and trying to threaten that they want to reveal classified information,
Nunes, the chairman of the House
individuals want to try to reveal classified information about the identity of an FBI or CIA source.
Okay, I got to stop him right now. He's going straight full board into a bridge abutment. He's talking about unmasking, and that's what the Democrats did. He's projecting what they did, unmasking.
I have a different take. My take is that he doesn't even realize how hypocritical he's being right now.
I'm just thinking he's using projection. You're just saying he's just being just a flat out hypocrite.
I don't even think that it's that. He's being a hypocrite because we're not allowed to unmask or reveal sources, but they're. Well, keep going because he actually says some more things that is just totally revealing.
That is against the law. The first thing you learn when you get involved with the intelligence community.
Okay, when you start telling me what is against the law does not make you more of a valid truthful telling person.
Good point.
Is that you need to protect sources and methods, and that if you were to out or burn
or
such
unmask,
an agent, that person's life could be in jeopardy. And I find it outrageous that the president's allies are in effect playing fast and loose with confidential information. And don't take my word. Take the president's own FBI director, Mr. Wray, who said, if you go out and start exposing classified information about informants, that you will make America less safe.
All right, stop it right there. So he's pretty much saying what we've been saying all this time about, and he used the word allies. He didn't say just Trump. He said Trump and his allies. Well, that's exactly what's going on. His allies are in the White House.
Correct.
They're in the West Wing. They're all over the place where they have access to the Trump presidency that are supposed to be highly secret, highly confidential, because of privileged information. When you're in on a meeting with the President of the United States, it's by definition privileged information, classified. It shouldn't be leaked out. And it's his allies that are just flooding the entire world, because, everybody ends up hearing it, with the leaks, with the unmasking, and the people in the FBI and the spies and all this stuff.
James Comey took notes.
James Comey taking notes and then
linking them to the professor that had FBI credentials.
They're all connected to people in the Washington Post, in the New York Times, and you start to see these articles come out, sources say, or sources familiar with the investigation or with the case. These are the people, these are the allies, his allies. Senator Mark Warner from Virginia, Democrat from Virginia. His allies are the ones that have been a threat to national security.
Well, yeah. I mean, we just talked about Devin Nunes asking Jeff Sessions to give him a heads up. Who is this guy? Is there a guy? Who is this guy that was possible spy on the inside of Trump? We need this information. And instead of giving him the information, they leak it out, and then the New York Times and Washington Compost cover it as if the Republicans were doing this on purpose to ruin everything.
Interesting. Very interesting take. So it's kind of like heading them off at the pass by kind of like, I don't know, minimizing the impact of what's going to happen to them.
Right.
I don't think it's going to stop it. I think the outrage is going to happen regardless. I think people are outraged right now. They see that they're lying. They see that they're covering up. They see that that wrongdoing has been done. They're like this child, right? That's been caught red-handed.
Yes.
And it's just pathetic. I did man, I don't have the clip. I'm sorry, but do you remember, this is a really obscure reference, so I'm sorry if you haven't seen it, but do you remember the movie Short Circuit?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
The robot kind of looks like Wall-E, the Disney version of Wall-E, for those of you that...
the dad, Wall-E's dad. Short Circuit, Wall-E's dad.
Well, that's what I called it to my... So my daughter saw Wall-E, and she loved it, and she fell in love with the little robot. Well, I remember, because of course, as soon as I see Wall-E, I'm like, that's Johnny Five from Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious comparison, right?
But Hollywood's not creative anymore.
So I told my daughter, hey, we've got to get Short Circuit. You got to see it. This is like Wall-E's dad, I guess. So she fell in love with that movie because I introduced it to her as Wall-E's dad. And she was so young at the time that she didn't know it as Short Circuit. She called it Wall-E's dad. But anyway, in the movie Short Circuit 2, there's a scene where he's out in the New York City streets taking in all the input.
Oh, right. Information, lots of information.
And he runs into some street gang that's stealing radios out of all the parked cars on the street.
Right.
And he comes up to them and asks them what they're doing, and they're startled at first. And of course, they're startled because it's a robot, but they're also startled because they're being caught stealing radios. And he questions what they're doing and whether or not that's stealing. And what do they say? They say, "Oh, no. What we're doing is we're taking these out secretly because they're all broken. All these radios are broken." and we're going to take them back to our shop and we're going to fix them. And then we're going to come back and we're going to reinstall them and they're going to work. And we're doing this as a philanthropy for all these people. We're doing good things here. And, of course, Johnny Five was like, oh, that's so awesome. And I'm so heartfelt over this that I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And so he goes and he steals all the car stereos from all the cars and hands them all over to him. And they're all thrilled. And he goes home and tells his owner what he did. And of course, they're freaked out because he told him that he was duped. But the funny thing, here's the funny part about it in the movie. As a viewer of the movie, it's so absurd. The dupe was so absurd. Like, everybody watching knows that he's being duped.
Right.
And it's funny because this is just a robot, and it shows how easily duped a robot of limited experience is. And yet, the Democrats, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the senators, all of them are colluding right now against the American public by coming up with this convoluted scheme to tell the public that no, we're not stealing the car radio.
We're going to borrow them,
We're going to fix them. They're literally telling us that spies were put. I'm telling you, you can check it yourself.
This is true. This is what they're reporting right now.
That spies were put into the Trump campaign because they were helping Trump. They were helping Trump, and they're helping the United States from Russia, who's infiltrating the campaign and infiltrating our democracy. And they're doing these bad things. And we're just sending the spies. That's what they're telling us. They're telling us that spies were put because they're helping. They're helping. Don't you know? They should be thanking us.
Yes.
The Trump campaign, Donald Trump should be thanking us for secretly infiltrating his campaign and infiltrating his government after being elected. The spies remained. The Trump administration had been infiltrated with spies from before the campaign, or before the election and after the election, and they were put there, and we're being told, because we're doing good things for the American people and democracy. If it was really that important, they would have told Trump and said, hey, we need to do this because we're a little worried about what Russia may or may not be doing to our democracy. No, they got caught.
They absolutely got caught.
They got caught, and they are that gang from Short Circuit 2 who is trying to steal car stereos, and now they look like a bunch of bumbling idiots trying to trick us into thinking that what they're doing is actually good and that they're heroes. They're heroes for doing what they're doing. So anyway, what you got?
I'm trying to find somebody this week, and I apologize, folks. Somebody this week said something to the effect of, I'm glad Trump was spied on. I hope Trump was spied on.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing that Trump was spied on.
Well, whoever
somebody
was,
needs to spy on him.
He's not the only one. He's not the only one.
No, and then okay, I'm not even going to go down that road. All right, so we still got old boy here. Let's wrap up Warner and the Democrat. This knucklehead's still going. He's going off the rails.
I find this totally outrageous on some of the actions of these allies.
Just to clarify, when you are saying that there is this, it would be.
Let me help you.
Just to clarify.
Let me help you say what you need to say. Because
translation, right?
You didn't get it across well enough. I'm getting it in my earpiece that you're not coming across well enough with the focus group that's watching you.
Okay.
Illegal to disclose this information. There are now published press reports with at least one, if not more, alleged FBI informants and their names. Are you saying that congressional sources leaked this information
I'm
to the
not
press?
saying that congressional sources leaked, but I do.
So you
hope
don't know if there was illegal
I do hope
action.
there is an investigation into figure out if they did leak, and we have seen from some of Mr. Trump's allies a constant pattern of leaking. In my mind, this crosses the line that up until now, even some of the president's allies have respected a bit the integrity of our intelligence community, but this kind of ongoing assault from the president and his allies about the FBI, about the Department of Justice, where they attack them ad hominem. That leads to an era where people can start saying, I'm going to decide which laws I want to follow and which laws I don't want to follow.
No, it doesn't.
I believe you may see that kind of result taking place in this circumstance, where it appears that some of the president's allies are trying to decide, well, I don't want to follow the law that says I have to keep classified information secret.
What about
if we
your
get into
allies?
that realm, we're in dangerous territory.
Well, what about your allies? What about all your side? Where were you when the leaks were flooding out so bad that at one point Trump didn't know what the hell to do?
My brain is starting to hurt.
Right.
Listening to this idiot.
Well, yeah, you can. Well, we're done with Mark Warner. That's actually more than I thought you were going to play. So that's actually good because it just it is that dumb.
Well, I wanted to show how bad he was going off the rails with this, and he even at one point in time tried to say, well, you know, not everybody, not all his allies are bad, but I'm just telling you, there are some in there. And they're going to not follow the laws.
All right, so I'm going to read this to you because this was the example I was talking about. This was what I replied directly to about the analogy with Short Circuit 2 and him stealing car stereos and being duped. This is a perspective from Washington Post author Asha Rangappa. Rangappa? Perspective. The FBI didn't use an informant to go after Trump. They used one to protect him.
Of course they did.
President Trump and his allies are outraged at reports that the FBI used an informant to spy on Trump's 2016 campaign. Quote, really bad stuff, the president tweeted earlier Friday. Supporters of the White House claim the FBI's reported tactics were illegal. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes even subpoenaed the Justice Department for information on who the informant might have been. Department and FBI officials say public disclosures of this kind could put sources in danger. But Trump and his backers are wrong about what it means that the FBI reportedly was using a confidential source, spy. That's my word,
Yeah,
spy. To gather information early in its investigation of possible campaign ties to Russia. The investigation started out as a counterintelligence probe, not a criminal one. Interesting.
Because we didn't think there was a crime yet, Kerry, but it was counterintelligence. And when we did, we found out there was a crime.
And relying on a covert source rather than a more intrusive method of gathering information suggested that the FBI may have been acting cautiously, perhaps too cautiously, to protect the campaign, not underine it. Are you serious?
Yeah, who's that by the
We're
Hill?
Just protecting you.
Is it New York Slime? The Hill?
New York Post. I'm sorry, Washington Post.
Compost.
The Washington Post, by the way, is the one who launched.
NY Post.
This is a Washington Post.
Oh, this is a Washington. Okay, sorry.
Washington Post is the fake news media propaganda outlet that started the Russiagate.
Yeah,
probe.
that helped run that thing up.
It started
up the flagpole.
They were the ones that launched it. They were the ones with the gun up in the air while everybody was in their position, ready, go, and the sprint went, and that was in their October 24th. I'll never forget it because I've repeated it a lot. We had our entire Russia show, our episode, Russia, was all about the November 24th. November 24th, 2016 article in the Washington Post about how the Russia government was behind Trump winning the campaign, and now they're talking about how no, it was FBI was just helping.
Because the FBI's gotten it right so many times.
All these terrorist attacks.
So Trump is pissed,
and rightfully so.
To say the least.
He's so pissed he might rage quit.
Yes,
that's what they're hoping.
That's what he's going to do. But his tweets say otherwise. He tweeted out, had a pretty big tweet storm this week. Tweeted out, reports are that there was indeed at least one FBI representative implanted for political purposes into my campaign for president. It took place very early on and long before the phony Russian hoax became a hot fake news story. If true, All-time biggest political scandal.
Yeah, easily.
This one, hands down. Hands down. This is the failed coup being exposed.
Yeah.
Folks, we almost lost our country. It should send chills down your spine.
Yeah, we almost
lost we almost lost the whole country.
Well, we almost lost it because of the Obama presidency, because none of this is possible and would have even been conceived if not for the Obama presidency.
Yeah, he put the structure in place. The structure was put in place.
And definitely the people. Some people might even say, well, Gary, Obama had no idea this crazy stuff was going on. Well, guess what?
Whatever.
Some people could make the argument, and I'll always thank Rush for kind of giving me this paradigm shift in thinking. Nobody can show evidence that Hitler ever knew about the Holocaust, because no orders were ever given. Why? Because he didn't need to give orders.
Right.
He put the people in place who knew what was going on and knew what actions needed to be carried out in order to fulfill his wishes.
Right, just like Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, all of them, every one of them.
So these people were all put into place by Obama because he knew, because of his communist background, because of his communist ties, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dorns, all these people, it's a communist network is what it is.
Right, right.
And the people he put into place were all part of that. This stuff has been hashed out decades ago. Saul Alinsky. They've all been hashed out decades ago. They all know what to do. They all know what the playbook is. They all know what the recipe is. When he says, all right, there's your position, go. He doesn't have to give them any more orders.
No.
They're not calling him up saying, Barack,
what do you want me to do now?
Mr. President, I've gotten all these things done. Just want to make sure, just want to confirm with you that this is the next step to take. No! Hitler and his minions didn't have to have that kind of interaction.
That's why he that's why he put Rommel in where he needed to be at. Goebbels, that's why he put him in where he needed to be at.
I thought you were referring to Rahm Emanuel.
Rahm Emanuel.
But no,
it's got both cases.
And you know why they had to get rid of Rahm Emanuel? Because he said he actually read from the instruction booklet that you can't let a crisis go to waste. It exposed the orders that were supposed to always maintain secrecy.
Right.
And everybody freaked out so much they were like, Rami boy,
we're gonna do
dead fish.
Right. This isn't. You're not getting fired.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reassign you.
That's all. We got a big project for you.
We're gonna have to reinstall you as mayor of. There is no democracy there. You realize?
We got to get you into Chicago, okay? Because we know you know that best.
Yeah. So they installed him in a elected position.
Right.
And I do use air quotes there for those of you at home who are not watching the video portion of this. I actually did the air quotes.
Yes. When was the last Republican mayor of Chicago?
What does it mean when you could say, listen, we're going to give you the mayor, and you go and run in what appears to be possibly an election, but he didn't run. It's not like they said, we'll give you the mayor position, and he could have lost. It was a guaranteed. It's pretty
when
much.
When was the last time there was a Republican mayor in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean that just goes to show you
1931.
Right, and it isn't just like the Soviet Union. People don't know this because people look at it as like a dictatorship or whatnot, but they actually did hold mock elections.
Yeah,
they wanted it to look
as
like
real as possible,
some sort of a democracy. But in reality, they decided who was going to be in the positions, and then they would run the mock election and say, "There you go." So, there was no, it's like Putin. He's not going to not be.
He got reelected with 100%.
Right. So that's what you're dealing with in the Democrat Party.
Right. Did you hear Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il?
Okay. I think he held an election, didn't he?
I'm not sure about that.
I think he did.
But he went out. They said, you've got to try this game called golf. They do
right. Yeah.
So he played one time.
Yeah.
18 holes. And he said he was bored of it. But they said he got a hole-in-one on every hole.
I heard he played 18 holes and he got 17 holes in one. And the one hole that he didn't get, they turned it into the nuclear test site.
Ooh,
to blow it up.
Right.
They blew it up.
Right,
they completely.
That was a fake. That was a real fake article come out of North Korea back in the day. I mean,
It's
that's
an
what
actual
they do.
article.
That's what they do.
But how? Hold on, Brian. I gotta challenge you right now. What evidence do you have that he did not
I
get
don't.
18 holes?
I don't. It was the first time he ever played it.
So
the first time he ever played the game.
For you to sit here and report that he did not get 18 holes in one, that's kind of fake news. I'm just telling you. It's kind of fake news for you to report that he did not get 18 holes in one.
For me,
because you have no evidence that didn't happen.
For me, 5'11", 200 pounds. I don't play basketball. For me to go out and slam dunk on Michael Jordan 17 times in a row, and I don't play.
And every time he goes up on you, you block him.
Oh, I blocked it every
you
time.
pack his lunch.
Yeah.
Ball goes flying into the stands every time.
Yeah, every time. That happened. Yeah.
Well,
you didn't see that?
So I can't prove.
You can't call me a liar.
There's no evidence that it didn't happen.
No, we didn't even have any recording devices.
Okay, all right. Did Kim Jong-il have witnesses?
He did. He actually did, because they knew they would be dead if they didn't say the right thing.
He did actually. Was it Un or Il that poisoned his own relatives, or was it both?
Oh, they both of them. Well, Il most recently did the sarin or the powder in the airport to the one guy. Yeah,
Came up and
the woman came up behind him and smacked him.
I'd be a little worried that I would get poisoned myself if I were the assassin. If it was told to me,
oh, and they're going to get you later on, right? Okay, so real quick, before we run out of time, Donald Trump's tweets and what's going down on Monday. Wrapping up the tweets, Donald Trump tweeted out, "Things are really getting ridiculous. The failing and crooked, but not as crooked as Hillary Clinton, New York."
He actually wrote that.
He wrote that.
That's funny.
In parentheses.
I guess so.
In parentheses.
Could be brackets. I don't know.
New York Times has done a long and boring story indicating that the world's most expensive witch hunt has found nothing on Russia and me, so now they're looking at the rest of the world. Next tweet. At what point does this soon-to-be $20 million
$20
million and he put all the zeros in there too.
And the commas.
And the commas. The soon-to-be $20 million witch hunt composed of 13 angry and heavily conflicted Democrats and 2 people who have worked on the Obama for 8 years. Stop. They have found no collusion with Russia, no obstruction, but they aren't looking at the corruption. In Hillary Clinton campaign, where she deleted 33,000 emails, got $145 million while Secretary of State paid McCabe's wife $700,000 and got off the FBI off the hook along with Terry McAuliffe and so much more. Republicans and real Americans should start getting tough on this scam. And then this coming Monday, tomorrow, Donald Trump says, "I hereby demand and will do so officially tomorrow that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI, DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demand or request were made by people within the Obama administration."
So the left is now blasting that as, "I hereby demand." What are you, a dictator?
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm just like, here's another civics lesson. I like to give these little lessons out, not to, I'm not trying to be condescending or anything like that. But, one of the reasons we started the show is because I want to make sure that everybody's perfectly clear on how things work. We have 3 branches of government, and it's separate but equal powers, and there's supposed to be a balance of power between the 3. They're supposed to check each other. We have our system of checks and balances. However, this is just a fact, and you need to start getting this in your head, because I think that our government would work better if the people who hold these positions actually do this. The President of the United States is the one that's fully in charge of the entire executive branch.
Correct.
Essentially, I think that people need to start thinking of it this way, because I do believe that our founders and even Charles Montesquieu, who was the author, the original person that came up with the idea of the separate but equal branches of government. The president is essentially the dictator of the executive branch. And some people might hear that and say, our president's not a dictator. Right. That's why we have the legislature and we have the judicial branch, because they offset the power of the president. However, if you work under the president, now I'm not saying that dictators have the ability to just execute people. I'm not saying that he has the authority to just start executing people in his executive branch because he's dictator. But outside of actual murder, stuff like that, he is essentially the dictator of the executive branch. Now, that all being said, we need to challenge every liberal who goes out there and tweets or writes or says or whatever that, or even implies that the Department of Justice and or the FBI and or the CIA is somehow independent of the president.
No.
They are a part of the executive branch. And if we can't accept the fact that the president is the dictator of these people and that they can be fired, they can be investigated, they could be gotten rid of or whatever. And when I mean gotten rid of, I mean just fired.
Well, and that's the whole thing with James Comey. Trump could have fired Comey at any given time.
Right.
But Trump fired Comey on a recommendation from the people who started the investigation.
And not only that,
it was a trick. It was a ruse.
Right. And not only that, but he waited until the Democrats
wanted him fired.
Yeah, they started coming out with all these articles. CNN was coming out with all this stuff saying that, oh my gosh, it was Comey's fault. Comey caused Hillary Clinton to lose the election when that happened, and they were all blaming him. They were all blasting on Comey for being the reason why Hillary lost. The next day, Trump had him fired because he was in a position where the Democrats couldn't suddenly rally behind Comey because they were just blasting him.
It was an opportune time.
Yes, but he did not have to wait for that. He could have fired him at any time, and anybody else that is under the executive branch. We need to stop treating the Department of Justice as if it is an independent branch of its own government. That's just not the case. And the fact that it's even happening, the fact that there's people in government right now and in the journalism field, in news, trying to trick voters into thinking that the Department of Justice is independent of the president is actually a danger to our entire country. It is. It's a constitutional crisis.
Flashback.
Yeah.
Remember Donald Trump's first 100 days?
Mm-hmm.
Flashback. So we're going to go back to last year. Donald Trump, first 100 days. This did not age well.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Jake Tapper on wiretap.
Fake tap.
We noticed some numbers that alarmed us today. They appeared in an ABC News Washington Post poll showing a shockingly high percentage of Americans believe President Obama intentionally spied on Donald Trump and members of his campaign. This all began, of course, on March 4th after a long, frustrating week for the president, at the end of which he suddenly and seemingly out of nowhere began a succession of tweets that started with, quote, "Terrible. Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism." Now, if McCarthyism is defined as making wild accusations without any evidence, the only thing that was McCarthyism were the president's tweets. Any evidence?
That's stupid.
What is it? Was that supposed to be a joke?
It's not even close to reality.
Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan?
Seen any evidence that this has occurred? The Intelligence Committee has not seen evidence that this has occurred.
How about you, FBI Director James Comey?
I have no information that supports those tweets, and we have looked carefully inside the...
So that would have seemingly been that, except that the president and his team kept pushing ways to try to make this evidence-free claim somewhere sort of possibly in the neighborhood of almost not entirely false. Now, they failed, but they muddied the waters quite a bit. And now, here are the shocking numbers from today. 32% of the public thinks President Obama intentionally spied on Donald Trump and members of his campaign, and 52% of Republicans believe this charge, a charge that there is literally no evidence to support. It is the definition of fake news.
That's Jake Tapper screaming there's no fake, it's fake news that Donald Trump's wires were tapped.
That's the reverse.
Yeah.
Something
Now
like
look, this is America, and you can believe whatever you want to believe. 18% of the public says they've seen or been in the presence of a ghost. I mean, whatever. But in a thriving democracy, truth matters and facts matter. We learned in the campaign that Donald Trump can be cavalier about facts and truth. We learned in his first 100 days that that's not going to change. Indeed, that some in the government and some of his friends in conservative media will even work to try to make his falsehoods seem true.
That didn't age well, Jake Tapper. Fake Jake. That's why he's called Fake Jake, by the way. It's just unbelievable how far and how bad this is going. Looking back, hindsight 50-50 all day long, folks. Looking back, I'm just saying, it's so unbelievably ridiculous what they were saying and what we know now, what's come out to be true now. Breitbart did an article, showed they listed some of the people that are in the Mueller campaign. Some of the people in the Mueller campaign, Jeananne Rhee, she's a lawyer, donated more than $10,000 to Clinton and Obama. James Quarles donated more than $9,000 to Obama and Clinton. Andrew Weissman donated $5,000 to Obama, and he is the former general counsel of FBI.
They're all Republicans, though. They're all.
Andrew Goldstein, registered Democrat, donated typo error, donated almost $9,000 to Obama. Special counsel's office told Fox News last year that they had no comment on allegations of potential bias on this team.
Oh, my goodness. Jack Posobiec just tweeted out a meme with Donald Trump's face on it that says, "Calm down, liberals. I'm just investigating Obama to protect him." That's a good one. Good one, Jack. Good one.
Is he listening to the show tonight? Hey, Jack.
Oh, this is all over the news. We are on top of this news. I mean, it is breaking right now. Normally, like, when we do our show, it's like a whole week worth of stuff, and we kind of go through it. There's stuff breaking so fast right now, and there's been times where we finish the show and we don't report on something that's breaking during the show because we don't know about it. But this show is right at the cutting edge right now.
And we're at the end of the show. Paul Sperry, at Paul Sperry, breaking, IG Horowitz found reasonable grounds for believing that there has been a violation of federal criminal law in the FBI DOJ handling of the Clinton investigation and has referred its findings of potential criminal misconduct to Hoover for possible criminal prosecution. I'd like to see somebody get prosecuted for that ordeal. And then, I mean, pretty much we're out of time, but you got anything else that...
No, I mean, this is going to be an interesting week. Gosh, so much stuff going on. I mean, Trump is ready to go. He is and I don't mean he's rage quitting. I mean, he's ready to finally take his foot off the gas, jam it into drive, and make this stuff happen where we're going to investigate the people who are really doing the wrongdoing, that were using the Russiagate hoax as a way to cover for a coup.
And with that, I'll give you Smith Radio, fast 3 hours you'll spend anywhere in your entire life, folks. Share this with your friends and your family. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, and don't forget to donate to patreon.com/SmythRadio, and you will be a part of our daily, hourly MAGA meetup with all of our friends. It's so much fun. And make sure that you're setting your alarm clock for 5 p.m. Eastern Time every Sunday to catch every episode every week.
Oh, and get a calendar, Smith Radio calendar. You would have found out that
with unfathomable power.
We've been warned.
What kind of power? Unfathomable.
Ramadan beginning this week.
Without
Ouch.